Welcome, everybody. It is Over and Under. I'm over and wait.
I'm under.
Is it that? Yeah. Wait.
Or down under.
Yeah. It's pointing. Wait, what am I pointing here? Yeah, that way. Actually, so I don't even know. I guess I'm pointing down. Actually, right? So kind of. I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna have to get a compass out.
Maybe through. I don't know. How does it work on a flat Earth?
You're seriously like that way. I think. I don't know. It's called Jeranism.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll give him a buzz and ask him the question.
I just got coffee all over me. That's a great way to start a show.
See, this is what happens when you drink too much coffee.
Oh man, you don't even know.
You're shaking getting it in.
I'm leaded right now. I'm seriously leaded right now because this is a great topic. I really think that this is going to be a very passionate topic, and this is one of the kind of rarities where you and I probably are on the same page for a lot of this stuff.
I think that we're going to have a lot of common ground. Yeah.
So, okay, so I don't even know where to kind of dive into this. I'm kind of thinking of an entry point. We want to kind of talk about religious freedoms. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe it's worth sort of clarifying a couple of things up front. I guess my view is pretty simple. I think people should be allowed to believe what they want, practice those beliefs however they want, right up to the point where it affects other people, and that includes children.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of in the same position. I'm all for religious freedoms. I think that the way the government's situated is that, at least, again, in our lands, that a person has a right to practice their religion as they see fit, as long as it's not hurting anybody, as long as it's not illegal, as long as harming children or other people. And you also have the freedom from religion. That's something that the Supreme Court has actually very, very stipulated, expressly and explicitly stipulated that, you cannot be penalized if you don't have any kind of religious faith. I mean, and because that has been something, especially in America, that has been stigmatized for a very long time. And you as a politician know that probably your chances to get elected as an atheist or a non-believer is lessened than somebody who's an evangelist, right?
Look, definitely in the United States.
Yeah.
I don't think that it would make any sense for anyone to declare themselves an atheist if they actually wanted to get elected in the United States. It's a little bit different in Australia. We've had an atheist prime minister, although she wasn't elected directly as prime minister. I won't get into the intricacies of Australian politics, but we do have atheists, but they don't necessarily go out and proclaim it. But if they're asked, they'll say that they've got no faith. But yeah, if realistically you've got to be that whole Bible believing, if you go to church you're a good person shtick, that's still very much alive somehow.
Do you think a lot of it's for show? Because I can tell you right now, in the United States, it's showmanship. I mean, I think I'm telling you right now, had Trump not played this little, I'm a Christian, here's the Bible, I'm an evangelist, Baptist or whatever, his chance of being elected would have been much more slim and marginalized. I mean, there's no possible way I think he would have got elected.
There's no way that he's a Bible believing practicing.
Oh yeah, I don't believe for a second
Christian.
He is.
But but he's playing to an audience, and in the United States, the right is religious. Simple as that. You are not going to be. You're not even going to get a look in if you're not religious. So he's got to play that card, and that's why he's got the evangelist there. Wait and see if he wins the election. Wait and see when he's got doesn't have to worry about being re-elected. If he actually keeps playing that card, or if he.
You think he's going to go to church if he's not reelected, right? First of all, I do think he'll be indicted if he's not reelected. You can't indict a sitting president, but I think one of the reasons why he wants to run again is he probably knows that the walls are closing in on him. I do think there's going to be some kind of indictments or definitely civil lawsuits.
Nah.
You don't think so? All right, we disagree already. Nah. Get off my show.
Nah. Okay, fine.
But
cancelled.
You don't think there's going to be some indictments?
No, what for?
I think there's.
What are they going to indict him for?
Oh, I think there's some Russian collusion.
What's he done that No. It's no.
We're gonna have to have a whole show on that maybe, because I would have to be more prepared for that. But I think there's some issues there.
Look. Let's talk about foreign interference in elections.
Okay.
If I sit here and say let's be realistic about it. Now, if I were to dedicate an entire Facebook page to wanting to elect Joe Biden and talk about how wonderful Joe Biden is and sharing it and spending money on promoting that page on social media, does that mean that I, as an Australian, have colluded to ensure the election of Joe Biden? Have I, as an Australian?
No.
Is
But that's not what happened. I mean,
Isn't it?
no, the collusion was, look, there's platforms out there that can help control the outcome of elections. Facebook, YouTube, Reddit,
Of course.
wherever. There's some platforms, and especially Facebook and YouTube. These are large platforms, and there had to be at least some influence to promote certain ads over other ads, right? Matter of fact, just recently, I was looking, like, for example, what we're going to be talking about tonight with, like, the Tucker Carlson interview. If you go to YouTube, some of those videos that were playing the Tucker Carlson interview are no longer there. One of the channels got removed. One of them had a community guideline strike. We're not playing that video, by the way. We will talk about it.
But that's probably just Fox News hitting it.
I don't know. There seems to be there seems to be, especially on Twitter and YouTube, they seem to be very arbitrary in who they deplatform. And again, we already did a show on cancel culture. Not a fan of it, but you got to admit, they do seem to deplatform right wingers more than left.
Oh, absolutely. It's look, Twitter, and you can watch interviews with Jack Dorsey, and Twitter is absolutely more interested in promoting left wing points of view.
Sure.
Facebook, they have a neutral position. They won't go either way. YouTube, Google, look, there's a lot more. And look, some of the accounts that get banned are extreme accounts, like things like Alex Jones. Like, he's a lunatic. Let's not kid ourselves. I think a lot of what he does is for show, but he's a lunatic, and his views are just yeah. But the equivalent on the left doesn't necessarily get the same treatment. So it's and that's fine. I mean, look, the way I look at it is, I'm probably different to a lot of people on the right, where my attitude is, well, okay, yeah, it sucks, it's not fair, but they're privately owned companies. If Jack Dorsey wants to eliminate everyone who is right leaning and have a left leaning platform, he owns the business. That's a decision that he can make, so long as he's doing everything and keeping the shareholders happy.
Okay. I've already argued, and I had a show on the other day. I did a controversy show that on Fridays on my channel, and one of the topics was cancel culture. And I definitely think that people have the right as a CEO or whatever to control their platform the way they want. I mean, these are private businesses, even though there's some argument to make them public, right? I mean, there is some public utility. There's some arguments to be had there, right? But as of right now, I don't think they're construed as public utilities, and so they can do whatever they want. Now, the problem is, though, because they can kind of do what they want, there obviously is some bias. I mean, you agree that Jack, the CEO of Twitter, is probably left-leaning, and they do tend to deplatform right-wing.
Oh, he is.
And so where did all those right-wingers go, though? Parlay, right? They went to Parlay. People call it Parlay. That's actually pronounced Parlay. They all went underground.
There's no one there. There's
people there. It's all right wingers, though.
Yeah, I had a look at that. It's pretty.
It's not like they're going to have any kind of real pushback on anything. They're not going to have any real dialogue because it's basically all the people that got removed from Twitter went there to Parlay. So it's an echo
realistically,
chamber.
I mean, if you Twitter is an echo chamber. Twitter is extreme. I can tell you, if I have a look through my Twitter feed, it's not representative of a balanced viewpoint. It's definitely left-leaning, and once again, that's fine. Now, I choose to go on Twitter. I choose to engage with that. That's a decision I make. Mm-hmm. Personally, I like to look inside other bubbles. I don't want to just have the one lot of thoughts and be surrounded by people who agree with me. I don't think we learn anything when we just surround ourselves with people who just the wood ducks. They're just constantly nodding everything. Oh yes, this one good, this one bad. It gets you nowhere. I'm happy to have my mind changed. I love it when I go, you know what, I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, that's a great point. Even when I don't agree, I love to I like to talk. That's why I like doing this, because realistically, you and I, politically, I don't think we're that different. But realistically, I'm right leaning, you're left leaning.
Well, it's funny, but that's opposite. And let me make it clear: his left is our right, and our right are his left. So when he says I'm left leaning, that means I'm actually right leaning with respect to the United States. And I'm marginally, again, I'm a centrist. I tend to be fiscally conservative, but socially leaning liberal, right? So I mean, when it comes to like policies,
you'd probably be right leaning in Australia then.
Would I? I thought.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. No, it's look, our right wing party is called the Liberal Party. but it's more the socially liberal.
Like,
side
for
of
example,
things. Like,
okay,
it's-
I'll give you my
yeah.
my basic gist. I think that we should get rid of riders. I think we should get rid of earmarks. I think we should get.
Mhm.
I think we should get rid of the electoral college. I think we should promote more libertarian type stuff. I'm not a libertarian, but I think that we need to put more focus on the individual, less government intrusion. The only thing the government should really deal with are, again, I think should have single payer tax or single payer medical. I think we should have. Socialized roads and things of that nature. That's fine. VA, and I think that. Oh yeah, when emission controls, I'm all for climate. Government involved in that kind of stuff. But all the individual day to day things in our lives, I think the government should just stay the hell out.
Welcome to the right wing, Steve. Welcome.
There you go.
And here's the difference, I guess, with the United States. And this is something that we'll touch on. Actually, it's possibly a good segue. In the United States, I think I would probably consider myself to be more left than right, simply because the right in the United States is dominated by religion.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Yeah, they've moved so far over to that side.
The social conservatism has taken over. So it's the big issues seem to be it's government shouldn't interfere, but we want to ban this, we want to ban that, we don't want to let these people get married, we don't want to do this. So I actually don't think American conservatism is true conservatism.
No, I agree with you. It's changed from the days of, okay, I'm like my dad's kind of conservatism, right? I was more of a Reagan kind of conservative. And so I know there's been issues with Reagan. People can say pros and cons. But for the most part, I agree with his fiscal conservativeness. People can argue trickle-down economics. I'm still trying to figure out Keynesian curves. Nobody understands them. It's magic. It is voodoo. But whatever. But the problem is that the right-wing party now has been monopolized by evangelism. I mean, you cannot even get a seat at the table unless you basically kowtow to them and basically say, yeah, whatever you believe, this is what we're going to go with. And I have an issue with this because I think that because of that, the things that the Republican Party has gotten away with has been egregious. I mean, the Overton window has shifted so far that it's just basically shattered, in my opinion. I can imagine if this stuff would have been like 30, 40 years ago, the stuff that Trump gets gotten away with. Nowadays, it's like, oh, what did Trump do? I don't know. It's like nobody cares.
Yeah, but that's but I don't think it's a case of nobody cares. I think it's a case of because there's so much that Trump gets accused of. It's the orange man bad. That's absolutely. It's the little boy who cried wolf. You keep hearing wolf, 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 and guess what? When he actually does something wrong, and Trump does plenty wrong. And I just want to clarify for everyone, because I know I saw some of the comments. I'm not a Trump supporter. If I was in the United States, I would not be voting for Donald Trump. I will be very, very clear about that. I don't know if I'd vote for Joe Biden. I would probably not vote, but I am certainly not a Trump supporter.
It's a lesser two evils.
Very, very.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. That's the way I look at it. But I just want to be very clear. I'm not a Trump supporter. He does plenty wrong, and he's not a good communicator. He's not a good politician. He's an old school protectionist, which I think old protectionist policies should go back to the 1940s where they initially died, because they're not good for long-term growth. That being said, he gets accused of so many things, and the media will spin this little grab or this little clip out of context to try and throw things at him. It happens so many times that his narrative of fake news is actually starting to work, because people are going, you know what, it's fake news. Yep, okay. Oh no, orange man bad. What did he do this time? If Trump wins, it's going to be off the back of the media and half of Twitter who scream, every time he sneezes, it's he could sneeze and do that, and they'd say, oh, that's a Nazi or a fascist.
Yeah, they desensitize it.
Symbolism or something like that.
People are just used to it.
That whole, and I'm not going to do it on here, that whole thing with it's okay, that thing that they're now saying is white power. I mean, that was a troll from Fortune.
Yeah, the okay symbol.
And
yeah, exactly.
They're reporting it. They're reporting it as it's evidence he's a white supremacist. People see that and just go, oh,
yeah.
They roll their eyes.
But people want to be misled. I'm serious. I'm at the point now. I really think that a lot of people just want to be lied to. We live in a reality TV world where people see something on the internet, they see something on YouTube, and they go, "This must be the case." And we see it frequently. We see it with this is this a UFO? This is a this is a ghost. This is They
But it's
want
society's
to
fault because
mislead.
society clicks on the links. They put out this crap news because what happens is people click on the link and all the advertising money starts to come in.
Correct.
People, it's you know what, we have ourselves to blame as a society. We really do.
Yeah,
We
but
really do.
how do we change that? Look, we've been doing this for a while, that kind of thing. You've been around a while, I've been around a long while, and we try to help people become better critical thinkers. And yet, no matter what we do, I still see people all the time. Okay, I'll give you an example. I'll give you a perfect example. I'm gonna do a video on this in the next couple of days, and this is kind of just something that happened literally like a couple hours ago. So my roommate had bought two of these. Do you know what these are? That is a USB drive. Supposedly, it's a 2 terabyte USB drive. Okay, that's a scam. Okay, that's a scam. If you had a terabyte drive, it'd be thousands of dollars. These are basically 8 gig or something like that, and they basically reformat the FAT32 to make it appear to be larger in size. The company is, within the week, is no longer in business. You can't even return them. And I'm going to show people how to show the real size of these things and not to get scammed by it. But he should have paused. He should have thought to himself, dude, I know about USB drives. He's not a dumb guy, right? But he's like, hey, Steve, did I get screwed on this? I'm like, yes, you did. And now he's going to check with me, right, before he does these things. But I think that people want to believe the best in people, and I think that sometimes in the back of their head, though, hey, I'm probably getting screwed on this, but hey, what the hell, because I think he knew better than this.
It's just like the old thing from the X-Files. I don't know if people remember the X-Files or if I'm showing my age here, but it was always the thing, I want to believe.
I want to believe.
And that's so true. Because people do want to believe. And look, I see it. And you know what? I've been guilty of it. I can tell you right now, I've been guilty of it, especially on social media where I'll see something that my side puts out, in Australia, and automatically my thought is, it's going to be good. That's my default position. And I've had to step back a couple of times and go, hang on, no, I need to step back, look at it, read it, and then make the decision about whether it's a good decision or not.
Yeah,
but it's so easy to do. Yeah, because I want my side to be the virtuous side. I want my side to be the side that can never do any wrong. But the reality is my side stuffs up. The other side stuffs up. Both sides stuff up. Politics is interesting. This is my view on politics. I think people who get into politics and people who are politically active in general have good intentions. They've just got different ideas on how to enact those good intentions and what society should look like. The problem we've got is when one side puts something out and people just blindly follow it, we don't have that critical thinking, we don't have that discussion about issues, and we don't have the ability to compromise. It's just my side good, your side bad.
Yeah, it's very bipolar, or at least polarizing. It's very like a dichotomy, right? Either you're with us or against us. Yeah, I agree.
And look, it's bipartisan politics. I'm a realist. I know that when it happens, it's wonderful, but it's not the norm, and I get that, because you don't get re-elected or get elected by being bipartisan, and it's a sad reality of society. It's democracy. I think, what was it that Winston Churchill said? Democracy is the worst form of government, except for all other forms that have come before it.
Yeah, well, there's pros and cons with, obviously, democracy, right? And we don't even have a democracy. What we have was what we call a constitutional republic, right? So we're not even true democracy. People think we have the United States is democratic. No, we're not. We're a constitutional republic. We've never been democratic. And by the way, you probably don't want to be. But let's read a few things out here before I forget. Atheist Linguist says, first step, get the money out of the politics and news media. I agree with you on that. I think, again, this all boils down to money. It really does. Except for the true believers, right? The evangelists, the true believers, I think they actually do believe what they believe for the most part. And that's a little bit scary, because when you look, I'm going to put it out there. When you got a vice president who thinks the earth is 6,000 years old making policy, I have an issue with this. Huge issue with this. Gargantuan.
You and me both.
Yeah.
You and me both.
I just, it blows my mind. Helios 575 for $5. AmCons, we don't want government involvement except for banning everything that is not identical to me or helps people who are worse off than me. Seems to be the case. Yeah. American conservatives. I mean, maybe for the most part. Again, I don't think all conservatives are bad. I tend to conservative fiscally speaking, right? But, when, as Chris pointed out, the right-wing party has become so entrenched with Christian evangelism and Baptist and it's almost you can't extricate one from the other any longer, and that I have an issue with. One, because there are religious people in the Democratic Party, obviously, so they're just going, hey, you know what, we got religious people too. You don't have to join them if you want to be religious, right? But they definitely have taken over that party. There's no question about it.
Oh, absolutely. I'll give you a good example. I'm going to give you an example from Australia, where people just blindly follow a team. So we had a former opposition leader, a guy called Bill Shorten. Now, he was pushing when he wasn't the opposition leader, because same-sex marriage was a big debate that happened here for years. He was pushing, he was saying, take it to a vote, take it to the people, let's have a vote, let's have a vote, let's have a vote. Anyway, then he gets elected leader, and they go to the election with a policy of we're just going to pass it, we're just going to put it straight to Parliament. Then the other side, so the Liberal Party, so the right-leaning party says, well, actually, our policy is going to be we're going to take it to a vote, we're going to have a plebiscite and let people decide. All of a sudden, all the people who were pro the vote, but when it was put out by the left-leaning party, it suddenly became the worst thing ever, even though it's actually the method that was used to pass same-sex marriage in Australia. So it's a really interesting and I was pointing it out to people at the time, sort of, you go back a couple of years in their Twitter feed where they're talking about we need a vote now, and they're going, a vote now, 3 years later they're going, a vote is the worst thing. How
it's
can
sad
we do
you got to
this?
vote on some of this stuff. It really is sad that we have to vote on things like gay marriage. Just like, oh, you just vote if we give women the right to vote or something like that. It's like, really? These things should just be...
Oh, countries have done that.
Oh, I know. Actually, of course. But it's sad that they have to be voted on.
I didn't actually have a problem with it. And look, that being said, it was my party that put the vote forward. The reason I didn't have a problem with it was because the way I looked at it was, if Parliament just passed it, then you were going to have all the crazy religious types going, this isn't what the majority of Australia, and they're still going to fight for it. The fact that we voted for it and it overwhelmingly passed, it shut them up. So it's passed, and they can't fight against it. They know that there's no point, and that's it. The whole thing's dropped. Whereas if it had gone the other way and it had just been passed, like you're seeing in the United States, where it was passed, the Supreme Court said that it was fine, and then all of a sudden it's people are saying, well, this isn't the will of the people. Well, in Australia, it was the will of the people, and overwhelmingly so.
Yeah, and same here too.
It drops the topic.
Yeah. And what if it wasn't the will of the people? I mean, for example, say you had a state, some back-ass state, that they're like, oh, you know what? No, we're going to vote against gay marriage. It's one of those things where I don't think where the will of the people should supersede basic constitutional rights.
No, shouldn't supersede constitutional rights. No, I mean, look, my opinion on marriage is the government shouldn't have any involvement in marriage. Full stop. It should be, if it's something you choose to do, if it's something you choose to do in a certain religious way, if it's something you choose to do as a recognition of a relationship, that's up to you. You do that. The government doesn't need to stamp and say who you can or can't marry.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, if people want to marry someone of the opposite sex, someone of the same sex, if they want to marry 3 people, 4 people, if they want to live in a group marriage, whatever, that's their business. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah, look, I understand.
Once again, so long as it doesn't affect the majority of whatever. It's a lot of the things with and we're way off topic here, but I'm going to bring it back to topic. A lot of the hang-ups and the issues with changing marriage laws has been hangovers from religious morality and religious values. And that's something that even people who have left religion, it's not that easy to escape, because those religious morals and values have shaped society for hundreds of years, and we've essentially evolved, or society has evolved to where it is now, in part with those values and things. I mean, if you say to someone, it's, even though I would imagine most people, well, I know in Australia, most people definitely have no issues with same-sex marriage, but I would imagine if we were asked to ask the same question about polyamorous or other types of relationships, people go, oh, no, I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't think it's that off topic, though. I mean, if it's religious freedoms we're talking about, look, adults are adults. I'm not against polyamorous and multiple marriages. The problem I only have with it is that the only issue I have with it is just legalities, because the problem with having a marriage, things with multiple marriages, is the marriage is supposed to give certain rights to the spouse, right? For example, right to terminate, life if you're, in a condition where you're a vegetative state, the spouse can do it. If for transfer of homes and monies and things of that nature. So there's a lot of legal things, and so when you have three people, that might be a little confusing, right? That might be a little difficult legality wise, and so you have to say, okay, which one has the
Possibly.
yeah, look, if I was in a vegetative state and I had two people that were both able to make a call on that, whether to pull the plug or not. By the way, my family knows pull the plug. But what do you do, right? So having a triangle or multiple people in a marriage probably would be inconvenient legally wise, but morality wise, I don't give crap. I mean, just no difference to me.
And there'd be legal. Yeah, I'll be honest. I haven't given it too much thought, but
sure you have.
There would be,
sure you have it. He's like, I'll marry them all. Bring them all.
Yeah, I've got to hair them out the back. I look the way that those things can be overcome. I mean, yeah, there's going to be like anything legally. That's why there's courts, because where there's legal disputes, they get sorted out. But realistically, it is a hangover from issues of morality.
Oh,
and look, if three people have lived together for 50 years in a marriage and they find themselves in that situation, well then, does one of those people necessarily have the right to overrule the other one because they got the bit of paper signed first? Or at that point, I mean, there's other, the doctor's opinion probably comes into play or something
clearly,
along those.
Yeah, clearly should.
That's that's for the legislators of the future to worry about.
Yeah, no, I think you're right on that. But I also, totally agree that marriage came from religiosity. I mean, this was the whole thing with biblical days, right? I mean, there's a whole bunch of laws on marriage. So now we have secular type marriage, right? And that would have been unheard of 2,000 years ago. What the hell is a secular marriage, right? They would have no idea.
Well, the only reason that marriage was ever, the government ever got into the business of marriage was because back in the 1600s, they just wanted to keep a record. It was like a way of keeping a census and to make sure that people weren't marrying their cousins or close family members.
Yeah,
that was it. That was the entire reason. And from there, it sort of evolved into this whole legal. Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't know if you've got it in the United States. We've got something here called de facto. So you're in a de facto relationship. If you've lived with someone for, say, a period of more than 6 months, and then you're considered to be in a relationship. So it's essentially a lot of the same rights as if you were married. It's quite literally just the ceremony and getting the legal document signed to say you are legally married in the eyes of the law. Now, as far as I'm concerned, really, it's none of the government's business. What's the government got to do with it? I mean, why should the government have a say over whether I was allowed to marry my wife? Why is it their business?
Yeah, we have something similar. It's called common law marriage, but it's not really that recognized. I think it's more of a myth because I've never really seen anybody actually be held accountable for common law marriage. Although there is something called palimony that does exist, right? Even though you weren't actually married, so it's not alimony. But when you live together for, I think it's 7 years or something like that. Now I've lived twice with somebody for 5 years. My ex was 5 years, and I had another ex prior to that for 5 years. I've never hit the 7 years mark. But one of the things you have to do is you have to actually basically present yourself as a couple. Now, yes, we had a shared checking account, but she never took my last name. I never said that she was my wife or anything like that. We just, we lived together, for 5 years, and so that would not be considered to be a common law type thing. But there are some precedents for that in the States here. Yes.
Yeah, and yeah, likewise in Australia. Yeah. But I think look, it's just. But once again, it's one of those things where, and this is where religious freedoms can go off the beaten track. If you want to believe something, if you believe that marriage should be solely between a man and a woman, that is your right to do that. You can have that belief. If your church decides that they only want to have, opposite sex weddings and that's in line with a religious belief, that's fine. That's, once again, that's the right of that individual organization to do that. However, when it comes to legislating and law, you don't have the right to say, well, my religion says that that's not what marriage is, so I'm going to deny you or someone else the right to get married.
Yeah.
That's where the line absolutely is drawn. You can't have people dictating their religious values onto people who don't share those religious values. You know, why should I care about what's in the Bible? Why should what's in the Bible affect how I live my life?
You know, that's actually a good segue to actually talk about what we're going to talk about tonight, about where to draw the line. Where's the line between somebody's individual freedoms and the freedoms of society, right?
I keep telling you, I'm really good at these segues.
I know you really are, dude.
I waffle,
dude,
and waffle.
I
and
latched
waffle, but I'll
on
get
your
to the point
coattails for a
eventually.
reason, okay? I told you I was going to use and abuse you. You knew what you're getting yourself into. Don't play dumb.
I'm, mate, all these promises, you know, you promise you're going to use and abuse me, but I'm yeah. Come on,
I'll fly down. We'll go out for drinks.
sounds good.
All right, so
Look
so
out.
I unfortunately the way that I have this set up, I can't really share screen, so he has to look at the outside. So it takes about 30 seconds to catch up, but he has
That's
all
all right.
this. So
I've got it up there. That's
yeah,
okay.
so
And I've
basically,
got all this in mind. Yeah.
so basically, one of the reasons we wanted to talk about this was there was an interview recently. There's a guy named John Macarthur. He's a pastor from Sunnyvale, California. And he basically, again, I can't play this. I'm not going to anyways. But everybody who's played this video seems to have lost their channel or got a community guideline strike. I guess Fox News is really cracking down on this stuff. And I only watched about a few minutes of it, but it was enough to go, oh, wait a minute here. I see some issues here, okay? Because what was going on with this? Tucker Carlson from Fox News was interviewing him and disagreeing with him, like. Is that, and he was arguing that basically his religious liberties and his religious freedoms was such that he couldn't go proselytize to people that are dying and give them, comfort or, virtually because they were, had kofefe. You guys know what kofefe is. And that, that they had a right to have these church services on Sundays and not have virtual services. Now, there's some issues I have obviously with that. Now, first, let me ask you, Chris, if a church has certain guidelines and says, just like any other restaurant or any other thing, says, look, we're going to have 6 feet distancing, you have to wear a mask, and they're going to have guidelines very similar to what it would be for what would be considered to be, what do they call this? Essential services. Which, by the way, no offense, I don't think a church is essential services. But arguendo, let's say. Would you be okay with that, or do you think that it is just irresponsible as a society during these types of crises like we're having now, where any church should have, some say, look, this is our religious freedom. We should supersede what the governors have put it out. The governors have shut down the bars down here. They've shut down restaurants. But you know what? This is religious freedom here. We should have the ability to congregate any way we see fit or with the guidelines. And if we want to infect other people, that's our right. What do you think?
Look, it's pretty simple. If there are rules in place that affect where people can gather and how they can gather, your church is not a special case. If you can go to a restaurant and they're allowed to say, we've got in Australia, we've got a 4 square meter per person rule for any gathering. So long as that's abided by, there's 1.5 meters of social distancing, which is 5 feet, I guess. So 5 feet of social distancing. And where necessary, we don't have masks in the state I'm in because we don't have huge outbreaks. In one of our states we do. So long as the rules are followed the same as for any other organization, no problems. Have your church service. The other option is a very simple option. If you want to have your church service and you're not going to go by the rules, well, okay, cool, you can do that. But then you will quarantine for 14 days. You will self-quarantine. You don't get to leave the house. You don't get to do anything else. You want to go to church and put yourself at risk, that's a decision you make.
But now you're encroaching on their civil liberties that, you're making us quarantine for 14 days. And how do you enforce that?
Luck.
How do you enforce millions of people that, say, look, we're not going to self-quarantine?
Well, then it depends how you've got the laws set up there. And okay, so I'm going to, and look, once again, I'm going to use Australia as the example because I'm bloody proud of what we did as a nation. This all happened. Our government came out and said, look, we need to stay indoors. We need to follow. Here's the guidelines. Here's the steps. This is step 1. Step 2, these things will open. Step 3, these things will open. Step 4, these things will open. Mm-hmm. We followed it. And we virtually eliminated the entire thing. We had basically next to no cases. We had In my state, we were having days where there were no cases, and that was happening all around. Then all of a sudden, what happened was a few, we'll call them randy security guards, who were, because part of the rules were when you came back into Australia, you had to quarantine in a hotel for 14 days. And there were security guards. Well, in most states, the police made sure people weren't leaving. In one state, they had security guards, and there was a bit of a scandal because there were security guards that didn't exist that were getting paid, and a few other things. But there was a few randy security guards who thought that there was no problems with going and sleeping with the people who had come back, who were in quarantine and obviously very bored, and then going out and working security at a pub or a club, going and driving an Uber, going back home. What happened was this passed the infection onto some of those security guards. Mm-hmm. Then there was we had a big Black Lives Matter protest in Melbourne. We had them all around. There was one in Melbourne. They said, let's not do it because we've got this thing under control. Let's not spread it. And from there, it spread to a couple of individual blocks. We got some clusters and bang. Now, Victoria had 700 cases. So the state of Victoria had 700 cases today. Moral of the story is, when we did the right thing and everyone was following the guidelines, we virtually eliminated the thing. The second that doesn't happen and people start to do what they want is when things start to spread. Queensland hadn't had a case for, I think, 2 months, a community case for 2 months. Now, that's the state that's north of us. There were some girls who snuck back into Queensland who actually had it, didn't realise they had it. They lied on their form, said they hadn't been in Melbourne, which is where they're getting 700 cases a day. And guess what? A week later, they've discovered no, they've got it.
Yeah, they're light on the visa. They lied on their they're light on their court forms. Yeah.
Yeah. So all of a sudden now Queensland that hadn't had for 2 months hadn't had a case has now got an outbreak.
All right, let's talk about that
for a second. New South
Wales. Let's not just gloss that over because I think there's something to be had. There's a whole different argument, but I've talked to you about this on Twitter. I told you what I thought about it, and I wanted your opinion on it. I don't think you responded to it, but I actually said, look, if they lied on their quarantine form, and very similar, like there was a little TikTok thing that I watched. These two social influencers. And by the way, I don't know any of these social influencers, but there were these TikTok, and they're like, we're at a party and we don't care, blah blah blah. Same kind of mindset, right? They just didn't care. Now I think if you lie on this, or if you are grossly ignoring these guidelines and you have lied on a form like that, there's two things that should happen. One, I think it's reckless endangerment, and two, if somebody dies from it, it should be negligent homicide. Mm-hmm. I mean, where do you stand?
Yeah, I agree. It's different terminology in Australia. I think I use the term manslaughter, which is what it would be in Australia. And look, so people going back into Queensland, these girls live in Queensland. The rules are, if you're traveling into Queensland, there's certain places, if you have been, you have to quarantine. If you're from Queensland, you have to quarantine for 14 days because they're recognised as hotspots. They lied on their form and said they hadn't been to any of these places, so they just went back over the border. Now, if you're from Victoria, you can't get into Queensland, but obviously they can't stop people coming back home. So they've lied on their forms. They've gone out and spent 8 days basically interacting with the community, working, going out to bars, places like that, and all of a sudden there's an outbreak. Now, as far as I'm concerned, look, for 19-year-olds, the reality is if they get it, you or I, and we're definitely not 19. If we get it, you know what, we're probably going to get a little bit sick, maybe if we're symptomatic, but we're going to recover. The people who aren't going to recover are the elderly and the vulnerable. Those who have got the debilitating diseases. People like my wife, who is a severe asthmatic. She's absolutely high risk. My daughter, who's a severe asthmatic, absolutely high risk. Now, those 19-year-olds mightn't be affected by it, but what happens when they pass it on to someone who then gives it to my wife, or my grandparents, or someone like that? Those people, if they get it and they pass away because these girls just wanted to go out and party essentially and didn't want to quarantine because it didn't suit their bloody lifestyle. As far as I'm concerned, that is absolutely manslaughter. You are responsible. You are directly responsible.
Those are two different situations.
Sorry?
Were those the same two girls I saw on TikTok? I don't even know.
No, I
I
think
didn't think so. I think there's,
yeah,
I mean, there's
yeah.
two different stories there, but yeah. So, what makes you think? What do you think the reason is? They are so callous and so thinking that they are exempt from doing what's
Selfish.
socially responsible. Do you think it's? I personally, yes, think it's
Selfish.
absolutely selfishness. Pure
It's just
selfishness.
selfish. They don't want to stay at home because they want to go out and drink with their friends, and they want to go and socialize and do all these. It's absolute
Yeah,
selfishness.
I mean,
It's,
look,
it's
I
putting
can tell you right
their
now, I liked to
interests.
party when I was a kid, but I thought to myself, look, if this was happening when I was 19, there was no way I'd be out there, out there, at a house party. Even at 21, I wouldn't be. To me, that would something I'd be like, hey, you know what, we need to even back then, I'd be like smart enough to think we this is bad. We
Well,
don't need to
we
go out
made
and
we
party
made
for
a
this.
decision when all this started. We made a decision as like myself and my wife. We said, look, even where we disagree with what the government's saying or we don't think it's right, we're going to follow their advice and we're going to do the right thing. And most people did that. It's well, apart from the first day they announced it and all these businesses closed and 10,000 people went to Bondi Beach, and then the next day the government just went, right, everything's closed. No, everything is closed. At that point, we all just went, you know what? We're just going to suck it up, and we virtually eliminated it. I mean,
Yeah.
we had the only cases that we were getting were people who were returning from overseas who were in quarantine. They'd spend their 14 days in quarantine. That was it. All done. We've got sporting events that have crowds. And people are coming back to it. Life is getting back to normal here, except in Victoria. Victoria is completely different. But so I live in the most populous state, which is New South Wales. So to put it in perspective, it's where Sydney is, East Coast. You've got Queensland to the north of us, which is Brisbane, Victoria to the south of us, which is Melbourne. And then there's a hell of a lot of desert, and South Australia, Western Australia. But my state is the most populous. We've got, I think, about 8.5 million people in New South Wales, out of a population of about 25 million in Australia. So, but we are back to normal. I can go out today and go to a bar, go to a pub. We've got to sign in. There's rules. You've got to follow the social distancing. But we can do that, and the reason we can do that is because we did the right thing. They said to the churches here, and our Prime Minister is an evangelical Pentecostal. He is right. He's the real deal when it comes to Christianity. They said, look, churches are closed.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? All the churches got on board. The Australian Christian Lobby, who I lock horns with on a regular basis, put a video out saying, this is what we've got to do. What's important is safety. We can do, we're going to have virtual services everywhere. And all the churches got on board and they started doing virtual services. They changed the way they acted. But in the United States, like people like this John Macarthur, like it's selfish. It is self-interest. I can tell you that right now. This is not for the good of his community. This is just because he wants to be a big man and say, no, I don't have to listen to the nasty government. Pull your head in. Just do it. Eradicate the bloody thing.
Let me give you a little pushback, because I don't know this guy very well. I mean, I literally just kind of looked into him the last couple of days. So I know people like him. Okay, we both do. For example, let's take example like Cy 10 Bernicate, right? We know Cy pretty well. I can tell you right now, Cy believes his BS. Cy is straight up. He is not a Poe. He is not. I mean, yes. Does he have bad argumentation? Absolutely, right? Is he fractally wrong? Yes, right. I mean, across the board, right? But he literally does believe his own BS, right? So he's saying the same thing. He was just like this guy in Macarthur and Pastor Locke, which we'll get into in a few here, that, look, we don't want to have virtual church, right? We are ordained by God. We're protected by God, even if some of them may even say. But he thinks that it's a God-given right for him to go to church, and nothing should supersede that. Because, again, you got to remember that Side 10 believes God is the foundation for everything, right? I mean, literally everything, and therefore nothing else matters, right? COVID doesn't matter. Climate change doesn't matter. Nothing matters to him because it's all in God's hands, right? Now, he's free to believe that, but the problem is when you actively, well, there's a difference between belief, right, and actively potentially causing harm to people. And so I think this guy John probably literally does believe that, God wants him to go to church, and he wants the people to go to church, and he wants them to, congregate together. And I think that is where religious freedom stops, right? Because, first of all, I cannot imagine a God that puts these, I mean, obviously these things exist, right? These diseases exist, right? And a rational God would be like, hey, there's some bad stuff out there. Don't be stupid. Take precautions. Right? That to me is a God that at least makes sense to me.
That would be a rational God, and I mean, it's the God of the Abrahamic God is not a rational God. I mean, it's almost as if he was made up by a bunch of Bronze Age, illiterate goat herders. Okay, so let's throw the argument. And, okay, so this is what I would say to this John Macarthur. And it's weird sort of saying John Macarthur because John Macarthur is actually we've got a famous Australian in history called John Macarthur. So it'd be like me talking about George Washington almost. Okay, so
did not know that.
If I were to say to John Macarthur, all right, well, I've just converted to Islam. Now the Quran says that I have to put unbelievers to the sword. So what I'm going to do, John, is I'm just going to put you to the sword, and that's okay because that's in line with my religious belief, and I have the freedom to follow my religion. Now, of course, he's going to say, no, that's ridiculous. Well, it's the same thing. Because what he's doing is he is putting people's life at risk,
yes,
especially the elderly. If you have someone who's 80 or 90 who goes to that church or he goes to see and he gives them COVID, guess what? It's probably not going to end well for them. He is putting them to the sword.
And that's the problem. Again, he could put his own life in danger if he wants to. I believe in personal autonomy. I believe in more libertarian when it comes to that. You smoke if you want to smoke, drink if you want to drink. I don't even care if you do drugs. It doesn't matter to me, right? I've never even gone after people that are drug addicts. I don't knock yourself out. I actually think though the people that are drug addicts that get off of it. To me, I'm like, dude, that is amazing. I have the utmost respect for those people because that's not easy to do. I smoked for 25 years, and that was difficult enough to quit. I can kind of imagine if I was a drug addict, right? Because I never.
I'm with you on that one.
Yeah. Oh my! Did you used to smoke?
Yeah, I'm an ex-smoker. Yeah.
Okay. And how long did you smoke for?
About 15 years.
And you're probably pack a day, 2 pack a day. I was about a pack and a half, give or take.
Yeah, I was a pack a day, unless except for Friday and Saturday nights where I'd tend to go through a pack and a half in a night while I'm out drinking, smoking
absolutely.
with everyone. But,
and by the way, when I was smoking, they were about $4 a pack. If you really got some of the off-brand, like the Indian brands, they're like $3, $3.50, $3.75, which wasn't too bad. Now they're $8 to $9 a pack. You have to take out a loan to smoke here. You need to take a second mortgage. It's that expensive.
You know what? Every smoker in Australia has heard you say they're $8 to $9 a pack, and they're buying plane tickets to the United States right now.
Well, I don't know what the conversion factor is. Yeah, well,
$25 a pack here.
$25 a pack. Well, okay, that's Australian.
Yep, they are.
What's
so
the conversion rate?
That's probably around about
$20,
$16. Yeah. Well, I mean, we've had dollar parity with the US plenty of times. I think we're about 70 cents to the dollar at the moment, but it tends to go up and down. But assume it's between $15 to $20.
Well, let's look here. That's what we have Google for a reason. $17.95. So basically $18. $18 a pack. Who can afford $18 a pack? I'm like, oh my god, that's
you know who can? The people who have got free healthcare and the highest minimum wage.
Dude, that's $1. That's almost. That's about $1 a cigarette, man. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. When I first started smoking, and I was a teenager when it was $4.95 a pack, and everyone was outraged when it went to $5.05. But then what happened is, and look, not many people smoke anymore. People still do, but compared to when I was smoking, all my friends smoked.
Yeah.
Everyone smoked. It's what we did. And now it's like you're the social pariah if you smoke. But just as the taxes kept going up and going up, I remember when it hit $10 a pack, a stack of people quit. When it hit $15, more people quit. $20.
Well, that was the goal. The goal. One of the goals was by the anti-smoking lobbyists was to raise it so expensive that it was just not cost effective to smoke. But the strange part is these companies still make money. The cigarette companies they don't seem to be harmed.
Of course they do. Of course they do. But our theory here is we know what it costs to. I guess the cost on the health system for smokers every year
is expensive.
So what I think what happens is and because we've got universal healthcare, like if I'm sick, I go to the doctors. It doesn't cost me anything. It's it's everything's bulk billed. We've Medicare. I mean, elective surgeries and certain things. Yes, you pay for. You pay for your medication, but it's heavily subsidised. Like I take blood pressure tablets. I get my 2 months worth of those for about $10, I think. So we are very much universal healthcare here.
Yeah.
So we know exactly what it's going to cost on the health system, and they tax accordingly. So it's basically the less people that smoke, the less people that are going to be putting a burden on the health system. So we it's all tax.
Well, certainly the
supported.
taxes are probably 80% of your price for cigarettes nowadays. It's a huge amount of tax. It's gargantuan. I mean, you can get like somebody. Andrew was saying that he gets the Indian ones I used to get for like $1 a pack, and I remember they were about $1.50, $1.75, whatever a pack. Especially if you bought them if you bought them in a carton, they were cheaper, right, rather than individual. Yeah.
And look, Ozman's he's made a good point in there, and I'm not a smoker anymore. I just know what I see in the shops. He said that $25 a pack Aussie or $18 US is our cheapest pack, and that'd probably be right. He said some of them go up to $40 a pack Australian, which is $28.72.
So is it like for the elite nowadays? Is smoking for like the people that can afford caviar and first class tickets?
No, not
how
at
does
all.
the average
Actually,
person afford it?
Smoking is probably like it's probably the lower socioeconomic that tend to smoke. That's never changed. Look, okay, so if you're we've got the highest minimum wage in the world in Australia. It's I think our basic starting is $21 Australian per hour, which is $15 US per hour, I guess, roughly. But then on top of that, if you work overtime, if you work between certain hours, it goes to time and a half, double time. If you're unemployed, so say, well, at the moment we've got additional measures in place. But if you're unemployed, you're earning or you're getting from the government $550 a week at the moment. So, which once again, that's probably about $430 US. That's what you get a week if you're not working. So that's how people can afford it.
I think again, I still don't know how they afford it when that you get unemployment, but you're still using it to pay for like normal necessities and stuff like that. And again, I'm not judging people; they spend money on anything they want, right? People know now I am legit frugal, so I am so glad that kids quit smoking 5 years ago, because one is just the cost not effective, but even if it was cheap as hell, I'm so glad that I don't. I feel a lot better that I don't smoke. But I'm not one of those people out there going, "Don't smoke." I'm not an anti-smoking activist by any means.
Well, I mean, if I was still smoking, even if I cut back, I'd still be spending $100 a week. And I mean, for me, realistically, I got kids, I got better things I can spend my money on,
But I mean, I can't imagine somebody paying $18 American or $25 Australian for a pack of cigarettes. That used to be a carton price. You used to get a carton of 10 cigarettes. And
that's why so many people have quit smoking here.
Yeah, probably.
That's why people quit.
Yeah. Well, that's what the whole goal was.
They can't, and that's the plan, and that's what people want. And look, there's plenty of people out there who are going to, piss up their money on whatever they choose to. And if people want to smoke, that's the decision they make. The only thing I would say is they shouldn't be allowed to smoke around kids or where people can passively inhale.
I agree with you on that. I think there should be some limitations where you can't smoke. Again, freedoms, right? You can smoke. You can smoke in your house. You can smoke in your car. I even think they should be able to smoke in bars if the proprietor wants that, because again, I think there's some what you're getting into if you go to a bar and you want to smoke, you want to drink.
Well, in Australia, we've got outdoor areas in most of our pubs and clubs, and that's for the people who want to smoke. You can't smoke inside.
Yeah, that's the way it is down here now.
Yeah, the only exception is they've got some outdoor areas for the game. Gaming in Australia is huge, like poker machine. I don't know or slot machines you call them.
Yeah.
They're massive in Australia. We've got one of the biggest problems with them in the world. So every pub, every club will have those, and they've kind of got these indoor areas that are classed as outdoor areas because of the way they're designed or something. But people know if they go into the pokies rooms, as they're called, there's going to be people smoking. But if you want to go into a bar, you can go into a bar, into any pub club, and you're not going to be exposed.
But you agree though, when they stopped, like way back when in the 70s, you can actually smoke back in the day on an airline, right? They had smoking sections. I agree them not allowing people to smoke. But again, that was a society thing. That was not your freedom to smoke. That was you're in a contained environment, in a sealed environment with other people, right? Now, again, same thing with restaurants. Restaurants, I don't think you should be able to smoke. But if you go to a casino, you go to a bar, that's a living story because you know you're getting yourself into. Now, they might have non-smoking sections. They might have non-smoking casinos. That's up to them. But if you're in a situation where, look, I have to fly somewhere and I don't want to be around smoke, I get that, right? You don't have your rights do not supersede somebody else's rights when it comes to that, and that was fine for the airlines. Why is this any different here for these churches saying that, look, we want to be open? It's our right.
It's not. Look. The only workaround I can see for it is if they go into a quarantine after. If the government says, all right, well, we're going to let you have your church services because that's special to you. That's fine, but you have to quarantine for 14 days after. The only exception being when you go back to church. But if you go back to church again, you are quarantining again for 14 days. That's the only way.
But it's so hard to enforce that, though. That's the problem.
Yes and no. Okay, so if anywhere that you go out here in Australia, you've got to if you go to a church, if you go to a pub, club, whatever, you've actually got to sign in and you've got to have your name and phone number. And that's not so they can track you. That's so if there's an outbreak or someone who has been there gets COVID, they can call everyone and say, hey, you need to go get tested. Mm-hmm. You've been somewhere where someone has COVID. Do that. But at the same time, if people then, you know who people are. If people aren't following the quarantine, what you do at that point is you just do random checks, knock on the door. Is Steve McRae home? No, Steve's not here. He's in breach of his quarantine.
That costs money to go do that stuff. Again, it's inconveniencing other people in order to make sure that people are doing the right thing. I don't know, man. It just seems odd to me that you have to do that.
My attitude is it's the outbreak you've got in the United States at the moment is horrific. Like it's
getting worse too. California, I mean, Governor Newsom had basically said, okay, we're going to try to go back to some normality, and too many people took advantage of it, and now they're shutting back down again. We've had second waves, and Riverside County is horrible because people took advantage of it. Like, oh, free for all. It's like no, that's not like you said in your lands. They want to do it in stages, right? We're going to do this and then this progressively. That's what's supposed to have had here, but you know what? We Californians, unfortunately, not the best at implementing that. Unfortunately,
and you know what? That's why, and not just California, but the entire United States. It's why it's in the situation it's in. You've got 50 sets of rules, so it's different rules for different states. I'm assuming none of the states have sort of closed borders or locked down between them.
No, they can't. They can't because there's a thing with the states is that there has to be travel between state to state. Like if I have a California license, it has to be valid in New Mexico. That's something that all the states for commerce has agreed upon, that we have to have free, open borders for the states. We can't isolate.
We have the same, but there's provisions where the premiers which is the equivalent of the governors can close borders under extreme circumstances. Well, you know what? The Victorian border is closed. Yeah, you cannot travel from Victoria into New South Wales.
All we have is this: you can't bring oranges. You can't bring oranges from like Nevada to California. They're so worried about citrus and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's what they care about.
I guess.
By the way, that's been outdated since the 70s and 80s.
Unfortunately, the way the laws of the United States are set up, it was only ever going to go one way for the United States. Unfortunately, the attitude that a lot of Americans have got about you can't take my freedom, and the thought that freedom supersedes the right to keep other people safe. Unfortunately, all America can do is basically ride it out and hope for the best and hope to try and limit it as much as you can until the cure comes. Once the cure's out, then
I think right now it's forever changed the landscape. I think it's forever changed the way that we've looked at things in the States. But okay, so let me go to the next article. This was basically a pastor in an Alabama church revival. Again, I don't know the pastor's name and I don't even care. But 40 people, because they had this church open, they tested positive for covfefe. Mm-hmm. Again, the churches. Here's where I have a problem. If we say, look, if the churches do adhere to certain guidelines, like spacing, and they wear masks, but again, the problem I have is one, you're gonna have a collection plate going around. They drink from the same cup. They have communion. There's always some contact there, and plus, I think a lot of churches just don't. They're not going to do this. They're not going to abide by the regulations, and it's so hard and so ineffectively cost prohibitive to try to go to church and say, hey, look, are you doing these guidelines? So I think it makes sense to say, look, have virtual services, right? Don't allow the churches to open. I think there's definitely an argument to be had for that. But when you have something like this where there's actual evidence of when they open, people test positive and can die. I mean, this is mind-boggling to me that this is even something that should be up for consideration. This is not religious freedom. You still have religious freedom to practice your religion any way you want. That doesn't mean that you have religious freedom to put other people's lives in jeopardy.
No, and if you're going to a church where they're telling you, or they're prepared to put your life at risk, you need to find another church.
I agree with you.
Like seriously, that's not leadership. That is a complete lack of leadership. You know what real leaders are doing? Real leaders are saying, well, you know what, yeah, the Lord's going to protect us and we think we're safe, but you know what, the Bible says to obey the laws of the land, and these are the laws of the
Yeah,
land, and we're gonna be a
sure.
shining light to the community, and we're gonna set the example, and that's what we're gonna do.
I got no issue with that. I mean, I
That's
have friends.
leadership.
I got Christian friends. One of my Christian friends, he posts something like, "Look, we have virtual services. We are fine with it. We think that's like what God probably wants us to do. But if not, why would he be upset that we're still praying, we're still doing services, but we're doing it responsibly?" I'm like, there you go. That's at least
Think
a rational God to me.
if you're doing a good virtual service, think about how you can spread your message and your church's particular message
That's true.
to all these other people who are staying at home, who aren't going to
A
church.
lot of people might want to go to a virtual service and actually have to get up in the morning and go to church,
Look,
right?
from a business and marketing point of view, which
It's
a lot
true, I
of these
hadn't thought about
churches
that.
do, trust me, from a business and marketing point of view, get your online right, and you've got a bigger market. The world is your market all of a sudden.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know, it's
think
not
about
just
how
your
much you
congregation.
expand your Oh, but here's okay.
Come on, what's wrong? They're
Okay.
all meant to be capitalists, these people.
Okay. There's a little pushback there. One, if you have a lot more people going to your services virtually, there's a potential there that people could send them money virtually. Okay, that I think, but churches tend to pass around the collection plate. At least some churches, they want you to give money while you're in there, right? So. I don't know. You think they would lose money by having virtual services, or actually come out net ahead because with virtual services, like, hey, PayPal us, or whatever.
It's a simple click to donate here, and as someone who did a lot of tithe talks, it would be a very simple. Well, look, the Lord's put us here, and what we're now doing these virtual services, and that's wonderful, and that's what the Lord's ordained. And what I want you to think about is, you're not having to pay for that gas. You're not having to pay that extra money to run your car.
Yeah.
Is that an extra $2 that you can give to the Lord? Now, give that money back to the Lord. Don't waste that money on yourself. And you know what? It's very easy to spin. Here's how to donate to us in a church. Like it's really not that hard. And I'm saying this, and I'm thinking, shit. I hope I don't give these people ideas. But you know what? If they get an idea, and that means that their congregation of 100 people stays at home and doesn't spread this disease.
Well, they've had to think about it, right? You're not going to tell them anything they haven't thought about. Atheist linguist says,
you would be amazed.
Maybe. Atheist linguist says, my oral defense for my dissertation was virtual, and my commencement will be too. I wish at least the latter could be in person, but if I can take the hit, so should the churches. I agree with you 100% on that. Look, everybody's had to make compromises, and look, I know there's a lot of work that goes into getting a PhD and dissertations, and it sucks that they couldn't go to an actual real commencement, but at the same time, there's a social factor to be had there, right? I mean, why should they have to take the hit? And yet you have these churches out there going, oh, look, we're going to open up and we're going to invite everybody in, and I don't think that falls under religious freedom. I just don't.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It absolutely doesn't. And the reason that it doesn't is because it affects other people. If you want to go to church, you've got the right to go to church. But that stops when there's a highly contagious disease that's killing people, and we're in the middle of a pandemic. And by going into these large groups, you are more likely to contract it and then pass it on to your elderly relatives, friends, and other people in the community. When you put other people's lives at risk, that's where the line is drawn.
Yeah.
Simple. That is where the line is drawn. And if you can't accept that, and your God is too weak to be able to cover that, well, then really, if your faith is reliant on you going and listening to someone like Greg Locke or whoever stand up there and tell you about Jesus and this verse and that verse, well, then your faith isn't that strong.
Well, okay, so we have somebody in the live chat that says virtual church isn't church. Well, let me give you pushback on there. Isn't it the Lord is supposed to congregate with you whenever the 2 or 3 people are gathered in His name?
That's exactly what the Bible says. Whenever 2 or 3 or more gather in my name, that is a gathering.
I'll be amongst you. I mean, so why would an all-powerful, omnipotent being give a crap whether you're actually in a building or not if all He cares about is being worshipped? I don't see why you having to be physically in a building would make any bit of difference to a rational God. A God would be like, hey, you know what? You have to do the responsible thing. There's dangers out there, right? We don't want your family to be put in danger. Now, again, Chris might argue like the God of the Bible was probably not the most benevolent being, right?
It's probably the worst of the gods.
There's an argument to be had there, but for the most part, I'm a little bit more open-minded, right? I'm the agnostic here. So let's say that there is a deity out there that is a rational agent, right? And I do believe that if God exists, there has to be a rational agent. I think that he has to conform to the laws of logic. I think that he has to be, internally consistent, right? And when you have a deity that says, "Look, there's these illnesses going around, and your leaders have told you, the scientists, the people that have studied the laws of the universe, have told you, do not congregate." Have social distancing, wear a mask. When you have these experts that we have found out how to prevent, the spread of contagions, and you're not listening to them, that's not a God that says don't listen to these, the educated people. That's not a God I think is rational. Why would a God ever say don't listen to the wise people? Don't listen to the people that are educated. I mean, I think throughout history, maybe there have been religions that have said that, right? There are people out there that have said, look, science is bad. Don't listen to scientists. But I think historically more of the really learned, educated people have said, no, we do need to listen to the wise folk, right? Wisdom is basically knowledge and implication of it, right? You could know.
The wise men came to Jesus when he was born. Come on.
Exactly, right? I mean, wisdom was really prevalent in those days because that's an application of knowledge, right? You can know certain things. I can know that an umbrella is going to protect me from the rain, but if I don't actually use it, I'm not very wise, right? So I can't imagine a deity like that where you can say that, oh, virtual church isn't church. What kind of God is that?
It's a pretty weak one. There was something I saw in the chat as well. Someone sort of put, but gathering in huge riot crowds is okay. No, it's not.
It's not.
Protests, riots, all that kind of stuff. Not now. Not now. It's not when people's lives are at stake. Just
I'm all for demonstrations, right? We've already agreed. Look, protest is
honestly
good. But
this breaks my heart. I see so much wrong with America. I see so much and I shake my head at so much. But you know what? At the same time, I look at America and think, what a wonderful country. What great potential. What great people. You guys are killing yourselves. Yeah. Seriously, you're killing yourselves. And I think, unfortunately, throughout history, great empires, great civilizations and societies, we've seen, they've risen and fallen. And unfortunately, I think at the moment we're seeing the decline and the fall of the United States.
It's diminishing. I'm patriotic as hell, dude. I am patriotic. I
love the United States. I'm not American, and I love the United States. It's culturally we're so close. Australia and the United States are so close. Like they reckon that culturally Australia is probably closer to the United States than Canada is. That's how close we are. And really, it breaks my heart. It's like watching a friend deliberately hurting themselves. And that's what it's like for us in Australia watching the United States at the moment, because it's like you're just out there just deliberately trying to hurt yourselves. It's simple. There's a pandemic. Stay at home. Be smart. Wear a mask. Socially distance. And guess what? The numbers will start to decline. You can start to eradicate it. Once it's down to low numbers, we'll then go to open a few more things up, do a few more things, start going back to church. But go back to church. Yeah. You know what? Get to the point where instead of having everyone gathered at 9 o'clock on a Sunday, say, all right, so here's what we're going to do. We've got 200 people in our church. So we only want 20 people per service. So we're going to have 10 services. They're going to go for an hour each, and they're going to be on a Saturday and a Sunday.
24-hour live stream.
And we're going to keep everyone safe. Yeah. And you know what? Preach the same sermon.
Maybe we should do that
10 times if you need to.
We might have $1 million idea here.
But the thing is, it's simple. It's really simple. Like, instead of having just a 9 o'clock Sunday service, all right. Well, the McRae family. Okay, so register if you want to come to church. They all know who their members are. All right. Well, it's the McRae family is going at 9 o'clock, and with this family and this family, and there's 20 of you. Fantastic. At 10:30, another service will start, and these people are going to be at that service. Simple.
Yeah, we really could become cult leaders like this. I mean, there's already, Steve's a cult leader. I'm like, of whom? But now that actually is a good idea. We might be able to utilize that. Remember, Sammy Jenkins says, it's fundamental to most religions, Steve, that they do not listen to the wise of the world. And there's some truism to that, dude. There is some truism to that. Look, I mean, again, my perspective on younger creationism. And that really relies on
Hmm.
lack of education. That really relies on people not being familiar with the most basics of science, right? So I think you're right on that.
Or not wanting to.
We're not wanting to, yeah, willful ignorance.
Hmm.
So atheist language says, do you think that this will lead to new awareness of the consequences of bad ideas? Unfortunately, no. I think that history is doomed to repeat itself, man. I think that America especially, I mean, you would think that we would learn from our mistakes. You would think that we would learn from historically con men that have been out there selling snake oil for a very long time. And yet we still vote these people in. We still prop them up as leaders. We still say, look at this religious
the only
person
options
who we
you
know
get.
is conning
You
people.
get snake oil salesman one and snake oil salesman number two.
Right.
Well, it's seriously the quality of.
We don't learn. They don't learn.
No, it's yeah.
Kawasa.
American political leader. You certainly the days of the greats like your Kennedys, Reagans, they're long gone. They are long gone.
Kawasa says for 10,000 won, Australians and Americans are culturally closed. Certainly explains a lot about Aussies. Yeah.
Yeah, it probably does actually.
Todd says it's the culling of idiots at the moment. You know what? There might be some truism in that too, right? Again, I use the term natural selection in jest here because it really isn't obviously natural selection if you know about biology, but there does seem to be some correlation between people of lower intelligence. They're the ones that are actually going out to these parties, these covfefe parties, to actually see, oh look, it's not a real thing. We're going to these parties and we're not getting it, and yet somebody dies from it and says, oh crap, I was wrong. That actually did happen.
Whoops. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Colorado Biker Prepper says, unfortunately, due to a divide populace, that the type of message of unity will fall on deaf ears. Well, of course. Again, America is a divisive country. We've been a divisive country. We don't have unity. We have very, very bipartisan type government system, and it's by design that way, right? They want to have a push-pull, right? They want to have a dichotomous type of things. They want all people's beliefs to get out there, but at the same time, because of that, there's a problem with bad ideas being allowed to be expressed throughout society. And again, there are people with they're called absolutist, or excuse me, free speech absolutist, right? That I understand that, right? I'm not an absolutist, but I'm probably close to it. Me and Ozzy kind of disagreed a little bit, but I understand his point of view. I don't think he's wrong per se. I just don't have a good enough argument right now to explain my position compared to his. But I think that some harmful ideas need to be negated and need to be, like, for example, if you're out there promoting the goop, what's her name's goop stuff. You're out there promoting Jilly Juice. You're out there promoting things that can actively harm something. Yeah, you don't have a free speech to do that.
No,
that's a bad idea. But if you're out there just saying, bad, whatever religious positions that we know probably are not true, like creationism, yeah, unfortunately, you do have a right to do it. Go ahead.
I've had a thought for the religious people, and it's something I want them to think about. Have the religious thought that maybe it's actually Zeus who's the primary deity,
maybe
and Zeus is so angry he's so angry at the Christians for following the false god that he's intentionally put this virus down, knowing that they'll all gather. So maybe they need to watch out for Zeus.
Yeah, he might be really upset. Yeah, well, you know what? Ocean might believe that, actually. We have to get him on the show one of these days. Ocean Keltoy. Logo says, do you think that America would ever teach a boiling point of destruction? It seems it's leading to a path of self-destruction. At very least, revolution is on its way. I don't think a revolution is going to happen. I don't think anything like that, right? Look, America's a strong country. What I think is going to happen is bad ideas tend to filter out over time, but there's usually a peak of it, right? I mean, you remember in the 70s, look, the whole Age of Aquarius, right? The whole New Age movement, that peaked and then it kind of dissipated, right? You don't see a lot of astrologers out there these days. You don't see a lot of Miss Cleos out there. You don't even see the talking to the dead people, right? That kind of had its day, but people got aware of it. It probably will have a resurgence. I think a lot of these things have resurgences, right?
Yeah,
but
it's fads.
Yeah, it's a fad. It's up or down, right? And people tend to forget, right? And that's what sucks. As older people, we remember these fads. We remember when they came around, and we will say, look, this has been tried before. This has been done before. This has been talked about before. But no, they're going to try to bring it back. They're going to be like, oh, let's pull this con again, because people know these cons work because people tend to forget about them. And there's newer people, younger people that come up going, for example, this thing. I knew this was a scam, and if he would have asked me about it, I would have told him it was a scam, right? This whole 2 terabyte USB drive. I got Bullernator in the audience, right? My producer for Caffeine Corner. He would have told him this was a scam. We know about this, right? But it still pops his head up all the time.
No, it's look. I don't think America's due for a revolution or anything like that. It's people will often say that just because whoever they don't like is in charge and they're not getting their own way or whatever. There's no revolution coming to America. When I talk about the decline of America, I'm talking about probably the economic, cultural, and decline as a world power. And look, it's not something that's going to happen tomorrow, but it is something that's slowly happening. It's probably on par with so the British Empire at the end of the Second World War. I mean, Britain's still a very well off, very powerful nation, but they certainly don't have the empire they once.
So who do you think will be who will be the leader? Who is a superpower now?
China.
Wow.
China's absolutely a power at the moment. Russia is very strong. I think Russia's having a resurgence, and where you need to watch out for is an African power that arrives, probably Nigeria. I think they'll have a similar rise over the next 100 years to probably a China. I think their population is set to reach 1 billion people by 2040.
No, I agree with you. China.
The obvious one,
India.
India. Sorry, India is the obvious one actually.
Oh, India is actually very powerful.
Their economy and what's happening in India at the moment is they're pulling their. They still have a lot of poverty, but they're pulling a lot of those people out of poverty and into a middle class. And when you've got 1.2 billion people in a middle class, you are a world power.
You don't think the tension with Pakistan will be an issue with them?
No. Okay. If they were going to blow each other up, they would have done it.
They both got nuclear weapons, and that's
Yeah. It's mutually assured destruction. I mean, if there was a nuclear war there because of the size and the
they're so close. They're right next to each other. So yeah.
Exactly. I mean, if
it's like North and South Korea, they don't want to blow each other up.
Each other's capitals. Guess what's going to happen? All the radiation's going to come in and kill.
Yeah, that's the problem when you have two countries that they hate each other, but they're right next to each other. There's a problem here, right? Colorado Biker Prepper says, without freedom, free speech, how do we know who the dangerous fucktards are? I agree. We need free speech in order to debunk the horrible stuff. Well, there's certain things to me which are just ontological facts, right? For example, if you can promote flat Earth, you're just wrong. If you're going to promote young creationism, you're just wrong. There's no dialogue to be had on this. It is wrong. It is objectively wrong. It's not a matter of belief, right? It's not a matter of just saying, look, I believe God exists. You don't. I don't think there's an objective fact we have access to where we can make the determination whether one is true or the other, at least right now. But there is an objective fact of the matter that we can say the Earth is not flat. I mean, there's something Chris and I can both look at, do experiments, and come to the same conclusions completely independent of each other. We don't need anybody to tell us the shape of the Earth. We could literally independently come to the same conclusion. That's objective, right? So when it comes to young Earth creationism, when it comes to flat Earth, they're just wrong. I mean, I'm sorry. People tell me that I'm kind of on the fence. No, I've never been on the fence with these things. These are not on the fence positions. These are you're flat out wrong. 1 + 1 = 2. No matter how much you say it's 3, you're wrong. Young creationism, flat Earth, wrong.
But Steve, you weren't there. How would you know? You weren't there.
Well, it's so funny because Bullernator then asked, "Hey, do you presuppose astrology?" Which is a joke that who was it? The pilot, I think, wasn't it? Who says that people presuppose astrology? I'm like, what does that even mean? What does that even mean? I mean, weird. That because again, astrology. Look, you can believe it. I don't know if there's an objective matter to be had with that per se, but I think there's enough to say, look, it doesn't work.
Although it was concerning that NASA came out and announced a 13th star sign.
Oh, Fucus has been around. No.
Why is a government organization announcing astrology?
No, Fucus has been. It's 13th constellation, but Fucus has always been considered the 13th. But yeah, that's been a long standing. By the way, that messes up everybody's horoscope bad. Plus, we find new planets out there.
I'm not a Gemini anymore. I'm a Taurus now. So
yeah, your house has moved.
About that. It has. Yeah.
But my question for astrologists has always been very simple. Look, first of all, what's the mechanism by which the planets Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and all this? So how is it they're affecting your life, and why is it just them and not these planets that are extrasolar? Why are these planets that we didn't know they existed in the 80s, right? We had no idea we had no proof or evidence of extrasolar planets at the time. It's only been in the last couple of decades have we discovered them. And by the way, first photograph of 2 extra solar planets just recently, wasn't that long ago. Actual photographs, they're planets. Now you can't make out surface detail, and they're probably like hot gaseous like Jupiter's stuff. But anyways, there are planets that go around other stars. But why don't they affect your life, right? Nobody. Yeah, Dalo the pilot, man. That was
it's almost as if it's because it's complete horseshit.
Almost,
just throwing
right?
that out there.
But again,
throwing that out there.
If people want to believe it, that's their freedom. But we have a right
absolutely.
to explain why it's BS.
People can believe whatever they want, and even when it comes to speech, I think people have the right to say whatever they want. I think that in certain cases you shouldn't be allowed to say things in certain public spaces. Like I don't think you should be allowed to get up and put out say something horrifically racist on a on a public. On a public park.
That's where my free speech.
People just have to listen to me.
Yeah, that's my free speech kind of goes. I got some issues here.
Yeah, it's but if you want to put horrible things on your social media page, well, people can choose to block you.
Yeah.
If you want to hold views, but if you want to believe in any religious thing you want, good for you. You do that. If it makes your life better, if it helps you, and you're happy with the way you live, wonderful. The only what happens in your own house is fine. With the only exception being, I don't like it when religion is pushed on children. But I think that's a
topic we're going to have.
Gray area.
Yeah, we're going to have a discussion with that because this is one thing I actually do side with Richard Dawkins about because he thinks that. He thinks that they shouldn't apply the atheist label to children. Now, again, my whole arguments on this, so I'm not going to go the whole atheist extinction things. People know my positions by now. If not, go to www.greatdebatecommunity.com. Video description has a link to it. You can see all my blogs and what I've written on this topic. But he actually agrees that what's the difference between, hey, my child is Catholic, as saying my child is atheist, right? It's a form of indoctrination. And there's some merit to be had in that. And I think we're going to have the discussion one of these days, but let me read these things off real quick. Colorado Biker says, I asked the astrologist how the Van Allen belt affects us. Why is it the planet's gravity affects us, but not the radiation belts, right? Atheist linguist says, I don't believe in astrology. I'm Sagittarius. We are skeptical. Some guy in Civilization 6, which, by the way, I play that game.
I just want to say I love that game. Civ 6 is awesome.
Yeah, it's a fun game. I actually have it. It was free on Epic for a while, and it's full for a game, not any longer. But yeah, I had the same thing, but it was I don't believe in astrology. I'm Aquarius. We don't believe in such nonsense. It was something like that. Yeah.
I like what Mikey Famine said. I don't care if people say racist things in public; they already do in private. No fire in a crowded theatre. That's exactly my point. It's I don't think people should be allowed to stand up, or get on jump on a plane and say, right now everyone's going to listen to my opinion on this, that, or whatever. I think that there's public spaces should be protected.
All right. Hang on. Let me give you pushback on that. Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
we're going to disagree.
Well, no, I don't think so. I'm not sure because we both agree that we are so anti-racist. It's unbelievable. We can't stand racist and bigoted.
Racism is
right.
Racism is an idiotic.
So let's get that out of the way.
It's
But okay, so YouTube has a right, I guess, to police the way they want. They have a right to say, look, this is offensive, this is racist, and not have those videos. I get that. That's the right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But let's say you have your own platform, right? Let's say you have your own video service or your own blog, right? Should I be able? People write racist blogs, and again, that I do think falls under free speech. If you want to be a racist prick, that's your God-given right to be an asshole. But I think that we also have a right to push back on that, right? We have a right to say, look, you're a bigoted asshole. And so I don't think there should be any speech limitations of what people should be able to say, because we had this conversation the other day, dude. And like, for example, in Germany, you cannot deny the Holocaust. In Canada, I don't think you can deny the Holocaust. And should the government limit free speech to deny a person's beliefs? Because what happens is, let's say that I was some prick and I denied the Holocaust, or I had some racist views. They would want that person to actually lie and say, well, no, I don't deny the Holocaust, which again has some ethical considerations. I'd rather know what a person thinks and fight against it, right? I'd rather know that you're a racist piece of shit and then explain to people why this person is a racist piece of shit than have them hide it. Because what happens is, as we talked about the other night on the it was, I don't know if it was my controversy or my rum and coke night. You can guys go check out the video later. It was basically they go underground, right? Racism goes underground, and it festers. It gets worse, I think. Right?
See, I have no problems with look. If I don't think we actually disagree here, because look, for instance, if YouTube turn around and say we don't want to have this on our platform, that is their right, because it's their platform.
I agree.
It is absolutely their platform. Same with Twitter. That's why, even though I see a lot of conservatives or right-leaning people probably having a harder time on Twitter, well, you know what? Jack Dorsey owns a company. That's up to, he can do whatever the hell he wants with it. Now, if you set up your own web page and write a racist blog, that's what you do, okay? And I, as an individual, have a choice to ignore that, to block it so I never have to see it, or I also have a choice to say, hey, here's what the racist thing that such and such has said, here's why it's wrong, and I'm going to fight against it. You absolutely have that right.
That's the choice I usually make, right? I'll stand up against things I find to be morally egregious.
Yeah, absolutely. So, look, freedom of speech, we should have it. Absolutely, and it should be completely universal, up to the point, like anything, where it affects other people. And if you're standing in a public place yelling that, you know, you don't like people of a certain color, religion, creed, political alignment, whatever it is, and you're not authorized to do so, and it is something that can cause offense or upset people, well, I think that's where, and actually I use the term offense.
I think it's more if it's
people get offended with everything.
Yeah, I don't think offense should be governed. Look, if you want to yell racist epithets in the middle of some park or something like that, to me, if kids are present, there's a difference here, and that's the problem I have. If kids aren't around, if it's a bunch of adults, like a speaker corner, or whatever, then say what the hell you want. But again, people have the right to push back on it, right? And by the way, all these people that are spewing all this racist crap, there's pushback for it. They're losing jobs. People are now putting it on Twitter. There's social media out there. And to me, I'm against call-out culture, but that to me is not call-out culture. That is exposing the fact that, look, we have a problem here in the United States. We have a problem with racism. This is the problem. That's exposure. That's not call-out.
That's the kind of stuff I've got no problems with being called out. I you know what, if someone makes horrifically racist statements, I've got no problems going, hey, this person is a complete dickhead and should be treated as such. And you know what, if that costs them their job, that costs them whatever, well, that's on them, because they've gone and publicly put something on a platform. That's what happens. That's the consequence. If you put something out there publicly, you have to be prepared to take the consequences. Now, where I don't like it is where people make a statement that offends a very small segment, or I guess, you know, people get offended where it's not reasonable to be offended. That's a different story.
When they take offense,
you know, that kind of cancel culture, or whether it's a difference of political opinion, like where people go, I don't, you know, this person's a Trump supporter, cancel them. Like stuff like that is ridiculous.
I don't buy it.
That's just stupid. That's stupidity. It's, you know what, if you're going to cancel anyone, or you're going to call out the person who stands there and says, you know, the Ku Klux Klan leader that goes, you know, white people are better than every other race, or whatever. Right? Cancel and call out them. You know, so hell yeah, bring them into the light.
I wanted to move on a little bit. So I put the new thing up here. We all know Pastor Greg Locke, right? We all know who he is. We've all dealt with him on Twitter. So this is this news thing is referring to.
This is a win-win with an easy solution.
Well, let's put it out here. So this is pastor says he'll go to jail before closing Tennessee church during pandemic, right? And this is
no problem. Done deal. Send him to jail.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Look, it says a Tennessee pastor is willing to go to jail before he shuts his church down. We are staying open. Church leader Greg Locke said Monday in a Facebook video that he's gotten more than 6,000 comments. We are packed to capacity. You ain't got to wear a mask. We're not socially distancing. And by the way, he put this out on Twitter too. I and a whole bunch of other people, you know, gave him flack for it. He doesn't talk to me. I think I've corresponded with him maybe a long time ago, but I mean, I'm sure he knows who I am. But, you know, it's, by the way, was that narcissistic? I don't mean to be narcissistic, but I guess that's the new thing. Steve's a narcissist.
No, I think that was 2 months ago. That was the narrative. So I think they're still looking for new and creative ways to insult you. Yeah.
I know they got to come up with new stuff. But here's the thing where it's like, wait, dude. You're literally saying this is not a church that says we want to stay open and we want to take social distancing and the guidelines. This is like, you don't even got to wear a mask, come down. This is egregious to me, putting people in jeopardy. This is something that I think not only should Pastor Locke go to jail for, but if somebody dies from it, he should be held not only morally culpable for it, but also legally culpable for it.
You know what though? Let's look at this Greg Locke, and this guy is a giant douchebag.
Yeah, nobody likes this guy.
He is. You know what? he probably wants to get arrested because it's great for his
Yes,
narrative.
I think
Oh,
you're
look,
right.
here I am in
Yes.
handcuffs. I'm fighting for
They're
my
they're
faith. He
they're
wants
like
to be a martyr.
yes, of
I
course he
mean, going
does.
to jail didn't exactly hurt Kent Hovind's career, did it? So,
Yeah.
look, this guy, he's an attention-seeking dickhead. He's doing this not for any freedom of religion or freedom of speech. It's because it's look at me, look at me. I mean, the guy, his church isn't even that big, is it? Like, seriously, we all know who he is, but he's got some pissy church in Tennessee or
He's
where
just very
whatever
vocal.
it is.
He's the one that he's a person out there just saying the stupidest things to get attention. I mean, he knows he's got to know that people are going to go, oh, wow, why did this guy say this, right? Because he's doing it for notoriety. It's a shit talkers kind of thing.
So I'm looking at the story. 250 attendees at his church. That ain't a big church.
No,
that is not a big church.
That's not a mega
church.
Just
that's just a but you know what, because he gets all this attention, he says stupid shit like this, people know who he is. Guess
Correct.
what, then they go to his website, they go, yeah, we're with you, Pastor Locke. Yeah, he's
in the news because he says something shocking to us, I call us normal people, for us to go, hey, look, here's an idiot that's saying
it's a marketing
things.
ploy.
Of course it is. I mean, that's all he's done. I mean, he's one big Poe in some ways. Now, do I think he probably believes it in some ways? Sure. But he knows when he says the most stupidest things that he's going to get in the news. And matter of fact, we know people that are around YouTube. We know they say dumb things to get attention.
I'm sitting here in Australia talking about a Tennessee pastor with a church of 250. I used to preach to more people than that. I mean,
right? People got YouTube channels bigger than that. I mean, yeah. I mean,
my flock's bigger than his flock.
You know, and you know what's funny is, like over and under, we're in a weird time slot, right? We do at 8 p.m. Pacific, but you know. We get about 60 people. I do a rum and coke, and we start talking about community stuff. We've got like 150 people watching. And by the way, let me tell you, I don't give a crap if it's 5 people watching or 5,000 people watching if somebody's entertained by it, right? It's all it is somebody learns something, people enjoy it.
Hell, I'm entertained by it, so I don't.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? This is for us.
I'm joking. I love everyone who's watching, and the comments. I'm enjoying following it along. It certainly when people are here commenting and involving themselves in the conversation, it is important. So I say that in jest. It's Australian humour.
But we enjoy doing this stuff, and again, people put so much emphasis on YouTube of people do this for views. No. Let me explain to the audience how that actually works. People do things for views only. The decent people will do things for views only because the more views you have, the more people are exposed to your viewpoints, and more people join the dialogue. More people have discussion. You can more institute change. But there's a dark side of the YouTube. The people that do things for views, just for the views, and they don't give a shit about the actual issues. They don't care about making change. They don't care about education. They don't care about people learning anything. All they want to do is be watched, and that translates to usually money. Right, and by the way, this is not a big channel. We don't make a lot of money on this particular channel, right? I mean, it does okay, but we're not.
There's a lot easier ways to make money than on YouTube.
Right. I mean, we're not rolling in the dough by any stretch of imagination here, people. So
throwing the cash in the air, diving into the pool.
When people say like Steve does stuff for views, it's like how does that even make sense? I mean,
okay, if you were going to do stuff for views, there's a lot of things that you are doing wrong if you're only going for views. I mean, there's YouTubers out there, and I can tell you who are doing stuff for views. And I can think of a few prominent ones in our community, including some people who I really love.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
If you name a few names,
yeah,
I'm not in that community. And I don't want to be.
Yeah, no. Well, actually, neither am I. And I use the term in the community loosely because they're atheist affiliated. Mm-hmm. But I think I was joking with you last night, and I said about one of them. I said, I'm just waiting for the day where they discover they'll get more views if they suddenly convert to Christianity. Because it'll happen. It'll happen. You watch. They do all this stuff for views. Anyway.
Yeah. And by the way, nobody needs a super chat. Please don't push my super chats. If people want to super chat, if they want to, that's fine. I'm not one of those people that go, PayPal me, super chat. No, I don't give a shit. Look, I do split super chats with Chris, and if people put a $5 every so often, or $2 or $10, I wouldn't,
It's always appreciated, but
it's appreciated, right? It's a tip. That's all it is. And that's how I think of it as. It's a tip. Yes, I do this full time, but we're not pushing. You have to super chat to to read a comment out just at me, right? So I don't push those things. I suck at these things. I really do. But they are appreciated, by the way. They really are appreciated. But you know, $2, $5, $10 super chats add up, and I'd rather have multiple people just do a couple cheap ones than you know, push for like, oh, you need a super chat for Steve to read. No, nonsense.
And only if you can afford it. I mean, it's I always say with people who, you know, patrons, things like that. It's, you know, this isn't like the church where we're like, give us your money. Only do it if you can't afford it. Right. Don't do it. Like, never ever feel like it, you know, it's, you're better off spending money on what you need in your life.
Absolutely. And this is what I tell my patrons. I mean, if you want to support the channel, do it through Patreon and do the join button, right? You also get your name in green, right? So I appreciate that. And those are steady contributors, right? So every month I know there's a steady contribution coming in, and that to me is, you know, I'm so grateful for my members and for my Patreons. But occasionally patrons will be like, you know, I got to drop my Patreon down to like this or something like that. And my heart breaks for them. It's like, no, you don't need to tell me this. I'm it's like they're like, I'm so sorry that I got to drop my Patreon for a while to some amount. I'm like, you know, I'm sorry that you're having, you know, financial issues. Don't worry about it. Just like, to me, it's like, it feels weird they actually have to tell me this, you know, because there's no obligation for it. It's like, I appreciate they give $1, $10, $20. I have some $50 Patreons. But you know what? They fluctuate a lot. They don't need to tell me when they need to reduce. I just accept that that's part of Patreon. It goes up and down. Nobody should be obligated for anything, right? That's just, to me, obscene to think that somebody is obligated for anything.
Only ever do it if you can afford to do it, and you think that it's... And look, for some people, they are in a position where they can, and it's wonderful if they want to support and help. I guess, you know, it's obviously the more that comes in, the more that, you know, especially yourself who does this full time, the more you have the ability to keep putting out content.
I agree.
But it's this whole thing of pay me.
I hate that. I hate that mindset. I really do. I wish we didn't have to survive. Like, I personally survive off YouTube, and you know, there's pros and cons with that. But I want to put out content in order to earn it, right? I don't want people to give me money I don't earn. I want people to say, look, Steve's content's really good. We will like listen to Steve and Chris on Over and Under. We like Caffeine Corner. We like the controversy things. We like the rum and cokes. That's what I want to hear, right? Kawasa says 5,000. Don't believe Steve. It's all ploy. If you don't super chat, he'll mind control you. I guess I have mind control powers now, from what I understand.
You do. Yeah. We must all obey Steve.
Yes, NC Pure says, Chris, for $2 New Zealand. Chris, you suck because you're Aussie, but I love you still.
See, that's a little bit of sibling rivalry there. Yeah, we always, a little junior partner, New Zealand. We love you.
Kawasa says, for 2,000, it's a lie. Kiwis and Aussies are mortal enemies. You know what? We should have them battle it out, right?
Only when it comes to sport.
Yeah.
It's because we beat them at everything apart from rugby union, but that's another story.
Yeah, and Tom gives me PayPal. He has for a very, very long time, probably years. And every time he gives me a PayPal, I get an email, and I read his, you know, chat up. But I never sit there and tell Tom PayPal me. When he can, he does, and I'm so grateful for that, because there's very few people that actually use my PayPal. Very few. I don't push it that much. I use my PayPal to actually pay Cheshire, pay Bullinator, and pay Chris. That's what I use my PayPal for. So I transfer funds to my PayPal, and then they get paid out of that. But I don't have a lot of people directly PayPal me. That's fine if they want to. I prefer that, obviously, but I don't push it. I just don't. But Tom likes PayPal. That's fine. He still gets this thing read, and I'm so amazed that people are willing to donate when they're learning something or they're being entertained. That's all that matters.
It's insanely humbling, isn't it?
Yes,
I know
absolutely
that.
is.
I remember when I had my first Patreon and I'm like, wow, someone's actually paying money for my content. I'm like, how did that happen? Like, what's going on here? It's
people want to listen to you. Wow, shocker, right?
It's just like, oh, this is, and it's sort of, but funnily enough for me, all of a sudden it changed my mindset, because it's all of a sudden I was like, I really need to take this more seriously. I need the content I'm putting out, and it's inspirational.
But you have. I've been on your channel, dude. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. That
was good fun the other night.
That was real good fun. So, I mean, by the way,
fun.
his video channel is in the video description, so please go subscribe to Atheist Pastor if you have not. But
sub to me.
I think most of them have. We don't get a lot of new influence.
You don't have to pay anything to sub to me either. I mean, it's just
Mother Dragon says thank you.
You don't have to watch it.
Mother Dragon says thank you for the amazing content and interesting topics. We appreciate it. That we love when people are engaged. We love when people have something to talk about. This is what the whole channel has been about since the day I formulated this channel and first had my first hangout. It was to have discussions, right? It wasn't to shut down dialogue. It wasn't to say, hey, look, if you agree with me, you're going to get, booted. No, it was quite the opposite. I was like, what do you got? What do you got? Challenge us, right?
But hang on, that's not what the McCrazies said.
Shocker. Yeah, shocker, right? That's what's so funny, but because the people that realized that those people were lying are now my fans. They're now my subscribers. They're now my Patreons. They're now my members to the channel because they wait a minute here. Everything we've heard about Steve is complete bullshit. It's just the opposite.
Maybe
Okay.
Hang on a second. Maybe you've planted the McCrazies for that purpose.
Damn it!
You know that you're going to get more subscribers. Yeah, I'm on to you, mate. I'm on to you,
dude. I've been having this secret now for what, 5 years? I guess I don't know, 6 years. You had to give it away. Right?
I know. I had to.
Private. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. No.
NZ Pure for $2 says Ozzy is NZ's kind but kind of slow big brother. Ooh, such fired, man. You guys are like vicious with each other.
Look, we let the New Zealanders say that because it makes them feel a bit better about themselves. But it's all right.
So there's one other thing that I wanted to talk about. We are kind of running out of time. I don't know much about this. This was actually there's a thing called the PPP loans, which is the let's see, what is they tell you what it is in here. What does the PPP stand for? Paycheck Protection Program loans. And basically, I guess from what I understand, these loans are for people that have some kind of I don't know what the word is. They're not essential services, but they're basically, look, we're going to cover you if you lost your job or things like this. And pastors, for some reason, because they're paid clergy, except for him, he didn't get paid anything for being a clergy, I don't think. But some paid clergy, they get not much. They get a loan. They got $300,000 in loans and they refuse to stop indoor services. I'm kind of wondering, first of all, why we subsidize churches. Again, I'm not a person that says tax churches, only for the fact that I think that if you tax the churches become involved in the political process. Yes, we have the Johnson Amendment, and the Johnson Amendment says churches cannot actively promote political candidates. Now, are there workarounds that? Are there loopholes? Yeah, clearly. But this is like in your face. We're gonna not abide by what the governors have been telling us, the scientists have been telling us, and we're going to get money for this. We're going to get paid to subsidize if we can't have services because they're paid positions. They're a job, right? What is your job? I'm a clergy. I'm a pastor.
So keep in mind the churches don't pay tax, okay, but the clergy do. So if they're getting paid a wage, well, at least I know in Australia, if they're getting paid a wage, then they're still paying tax on that wage like any other employee would. Now it depends if it's a setup for employees or for businesses. If it's set up for businesses and it's the church who's taking advantage, well, no, they don't pay tax.
I think it's the church. Yeah, I'm not sure how these PPP loans. I don't know much about them.
That being said, if the money directly goes to employees who, if the church isn't bringing in the same amount of money and they can't pay their employees, and the money's going to pay for employees who are then paying tax, I don't necessarily have an issue with that. If the money's just going to the church, different story. I do have an issue with that. But if it's going to pay a wage, the same as it would for any other business, okay, whatever.
I mean, I have mixed feelings about this.
Amazon don't pay any tax in Australia, for instance.
Really?
But no, all the money. It's all the big companies, Amazon, Apple, Facebook. There's been big issues because if we do business, my business does business with Facebook, and if we do business with Facebook, we're actually doing business with Facebook in Ireland. So the money goes to a tax haven, and so, but even then, the employees of those companies were still eligible for the programs that we had here. I don't think you should punish people because of who they work for, even if they work for a church. If that's their job. That's the job. As an individual, they're paying their tax.
I think this is me one of those times you might have swayed me. I swayed you last time. I think you might have. I think okay. And I'll give you my position, what I'm thinking of real quick after I read the super chat. Min says, I'm apparently a McCrae Reformed follower. Yeah, by the way, anybody follows me, you're now a McCrae apologist, I guess, is the new shtick that they're running. I'm doing a show on Reasons to Believe's new channel called Agree to Argue. And we are going to do more of a layout like this. We're going to be, the first one we did was a long story. But anyways, they didn't have the stuff done in time. But we're going to be doing something more like this with Dr. Fuzz Rana. And the upcoming one we're doing is actually going to be on kind of more of intelligent design stuff. He's going to take more of a position God. I'm going to take more of the no. But we're going to talk about irreducible complexity, which he's not a fan of, and some other things relating to the whole design argument, right? Teleological versus teleonomic. He's taken teleological. I'm kind of siding with, obviously, teleonomic. But he actually has been accused of being a McRae apologist from people. And I'm like, that's funny, because when I had Fuzz Rana on and Dr. Hugh Ross on, I was accused of being a theist. I was accused of being a religious apologist. I was accused of being a RTB, apologist. And I'm like, look, I have the utmost respect for RTB because they treated me really well. They were really kind to me. I got free books to read, and I got to understand their positions. Doesn't mean I had to agree with them. I don't agree with Fuzz. I don't agree with Hugh. But you know what? Hugh's a really nice guy. One of the nicest, genuine guys I've ever met in my life. And Fuzz is a really nice guy too. We had lunch and just got to talking for hours. Doesn't mean that I agree with him. That's the whole point of the show. We don't have to agree, right?
And that's fine.
Right? Doesn't make you an apologist if you agree or disagree. It doesn't matter. The point is you're engaged. That's the whole point. We want people to engage. Agree, don't agree, whatever. That's not that.
We can have a discussion. We can have a discussion here where we have a different opinion. We put forward a different point of view, and we still disagree at the end.
Yeah.
So what? That's fine. It's the goal of every conversation isn't to enforce your will and make everyone agree.
Right.
We're all
exactly.
different. That's fine.
And let me tell you why you changed my position, because I'm thinking of it this way. If you okay, I want to make sure that this makes sense. If you have a job, and your job is involved with religion, for example, like my contact for Reasons to Believe, her name's Anastasia. She's the secretary. She's the publicist. Fascinating person. We get along so exceptionally well for years. I mean, she's always been my go-to person in dealing with RTB, and has been absolutely fantastic, on point on everything. We obviously don't agree on a lot of things, but we have great dialogue, right? And the point is that she has a paid position with the company, right? And if they're shutting down and they can't pay her, should she be eligible for some kind of paycheck protection program or some kind of unemployment? Yeah, I think she should, because it's a job to her, right? It's a job. Whether the job is relating to a nonprofit organization or a church or whatever, that is still a paid position. That's a job. So because I wouldn't want to see her, not have an income if for some reason they couldn't pay her. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Is that the argument that you're making, Chris?
Exactly. That's exactly the argument.
All right, then I'm going to agree with you. I think you've swayed me on that.
Ooh, they said it couldn't be done.
Don't let it happen.
They said you'd cancel me.
Yeah, don't let it happen again. It's not going to be. Yeah, expect it very infrequently. Okay, but no, that actually makes sense to me. I can deal with that. Right. Now, when it comes to the Catholic Church and priests, I might have some issues, but it's a whole different ballgame.
The Catholic Church isn't going broke anytime soon.
No, right. They can pay. Right, they can pay them for them. They can afford it, right?
But once again, where people look, it's if you're a priest and you're supporting yourself and you get paid however much you get paid, then you pay your tax on that. Well, if you're an employee, you're an employee. It doesn't matter who or what you work for. If the company you work for is being dodging tax, you as an employee shouldn't be punished for that. Or if the company you work for doesn't pay tax, I mean, what if you work for a not for profit? Yeah. Not for profits don't pay tax. If you're an employee of that not for profit, they can't afford to pay you. Well, then once again, it's just like anything. I think within the secular community, we're very, very quick to go religion bad. We must stuff them bad like you're a priest. You're bad. A lot of pastors out there. They're not like these Greg Locks. They're people who have a genuine belief. They feel they've got a calling, and that calling is to, help people, and the way they help people is by, spreading their religious belief and counseling them. And it's these extremists that you see that get all the attention. They aren't representative of the religious majority, at all. They're a minority. I mean, Greg Locke's got 250 people who go to his church. I mean, 250 people out of 350 million in the United States.
Yeah, it's pretty small number, right?
It's not even a ripple in.
Why
in
they give a crap what he says, except for the fact that
yeah,
he's saying things that are so contrary to what a rational person should be doing right now.
Yeah, but it's because he says stuff like that he gets the attention. Correct. And that's how you know that it's not reflective of the majority. I mean, if a mega church pastor with 20,000 people said the same thing, they're going to get the attention rather than Greg Locke. But they're not out there saying that, or maybe they are, but they're not doing what Greg Locke does.
Yeah.
And look,
well,
Saya's
is agreeing with them, but he's kind of well known, but news organizations are picking up him.
Look, when I was in the church I was in, or the churches I was involved with, were all decent sized churches. We're all part of larger denominations. There was a couple of smaller ones that I went to, and when I say smaller, it was sort of like 150, 200 people. But look, my intentions were always very genuine, very pure. I was doing it because I thought that's how I could help people. I really believed that by doing what I was doing, I was guaranteeing people an eternity in heaven and saving them from it's my reasoning was good. And the reasoning for most people I know within churches is good. Most people who go to church are decent people.
Oh yeah, no, I'm convinced of that.
They're not the enemy. They're just people who have a difference of belief. And I think we've got it, because it's very easy. And I say, especially on the cesspool that is social media, you're always seeing it's secular people using religious tards, or talking as if they're so superior and highly intelligent, while the religious are just these dumb believers. It's not the case. I can assure you there's some very, very intelligent people within religious communities. They just have a difference of belief. And whether we like it or not, evolution has basically happened with us having these kinds of beliefs. So it's not just something that can be turned off. It's part of who we are.
I completely agree with you on that. I legit think that
we need
that's
to
the case.
we need to stop smashing religious people so much, because all that happens is religious people see that and they don't want to even engage.
Yeah, exactly. It's the entrenchment effect. And again, I'm not
douchebags like Locke, different story.
Yeah, he's in a class by himself, dude.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not an atheist activist because I'm not an atheist. People know my positions, but I do agree with you 100% that when we see, like, for example, like I agree to argue, we're going to be doing bad arguments, right? And we see bad arguments from all sides, from atheists and theists. And to me, I'm like, look, a bad argument is a bad argument. You should not be so entrenched in your ideology and your dogma to say, look, I don't believe, so I gotta pretend this is a good argument. If some atheist out there, I gotta fend for my side kind of shit. And no, you don't. Matter of fact, by calling out a bad argument, especially from your own side, you strengthen your own side. Right? Because
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like, why would you not call out, for example, like you said, these people, these atheists that go out and just bash religion, I don't think have any efficacy whatsoever to bolster their own positions. They're not doing anybody any good, right? They're not doing anybody any good that way. They're having the opposite effect.
I can assure you, when I was a Christian, if some smug atheist had have come up to me and gone, carried on the way that I see half of these dickheads in the atheist or the secular community carry on, you know what I would have done? I'll go, well, screw you. I'm not even having the conversation.
Absolutely.
And but that's not what happened to me. I met decent people in the atheist community. I was able to have conversations with those people, and I was able to change my view.
Shocker when you have actual rational dialogue.
Without those conversations, I mean, you know what? Maybe I'd still be standing in a pulpit, because I would have just gone, you know what? Screw these people. I'm having nothing to do with them. And even when I first came into the atheist community online, I had some of these assholes, and they seriously nearly pushed me out of it.
You're not the only one. They do that for a lot. They pushed me out of the atheist community when I wasn't even in, and only because I dare speak out against them for saying, you guys got some shitty ass arguments, man.
Exactly, and it's dogmatic. It is so fucking dogmatic, the way that some of these people, it's and this isn't directed at any particular content creator, because there's content creators who aren't responsible for the way that the people who follow them go. But it's if such and such said it, it must be right, and we will follow it dogmatically.
How dare
it's
you
religious.
Question them? These are atheist activists. Who are you to question them? Well, when you're dealing with matters
how
of
dare
logic
you
and
disagree
reason,
with the great such and such because such and such said this? Oh well.
James Russell from $5 says hi. Thank you, James Russell. I appreciate that. Hi back to you.
Hi, Jamie.
Jamie. Yeah, I'm sorry, Jamie. You're exactly right. Look, I can tell you right now, there's been people in the atheist community, and again, I'm not going to just name drop, I don't care, but there's people that say, look, Steve's wrong by fiat. Steve's just wrong by his logical arguments. And when you have actual logicians,
I disagree with him.
But when you have
I disagree.
What with my
so what?
But you don't disagree with my logical arguments, right? I don't know if
I
you
haven't read them. No.
Yeah, I don't think you're familiar with them. But I actually have logical arguments that are logic, right? And I've actually had people tell me, well, yeah, Steve, some of them do this. Well, your logic's right, but you're misusing it. Or your logic is right, but it's like, wait a minute. It's like, that's not a really great
or
argument.
even worse,
it's right on paper.
Said this.
It's right on paper. But there's also people that say your logic's wrong. Okay, fine. Show me where the logic's wrong. And they have never been able to do so. But they say, Steve's wrong by fiat. And by the way, there's a lot of pushback to these prominent atheists out there who, I know all of them, but some of them recognize that I'm right, but they can't even say in public that I'm right. Seriously, I'm not even joking. They cannot say in public I'm right because that would be, they would be shunned by the other atheists out there that they want to, like, be a camaraderie with. They want to have a friendship with, because if you dare say Steve's right, you're done. You're done in the atheist community, right? But still, I'm proud of the fact that none of my arguments have been logically refuted. And I actually have actual evidence of this by experts going, okay, where's Steve's wrong? Let's have a conversation about that. I'm happy to.
And you've demonstrated, 10 minutes ago, that where someone puts forth an argument that you disagree with initially, you can sit there and go, actually, you know what? Yeah, no, I've changed my view.
Shocker.
So you're open to changing your view.
Sure. Yeah, it's called epistemic virtue. It's called being open-minded.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Crazy,
yeah, especially with logic.
crazy.
Like I said, if you can show me the logic is invalid, by the way, I don't think anybody's actually said it's invalid. Maybe people try to argue it's unsound. But if you know anything about logic, there's certain things you should not argue like, for example, modus ponens. Never say modus ponens is invalid. Right? That's a bad argument, right? Never say that the Kalam cosmological argument is invalid. That's a bad argument. You could say it's unsound, because I think it is too. But if you say it's invalid, you're definitely showing people you don't understand what logical validity entails, which just means that the conclusions follow from the premises if the premises were true, right? You're not...
Or where people just go like the usual, oh, that's just a such and such fallacy. Half the time they don't know what that fallacy is. They've just heard, YouTuber A sort of say, oh, that's this fallacy. So they just repeat it. They regurgitate. They don't understand it. So when that religious person goes, like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm putting forth an argument. You're just going, it's a such and such fallacy.
Dude, I had a guy, I'm a name drop here, Randolph Richardson. He's the head of the Canadian International Alliance for Atheism or something like that. Dude is the most incompetent person I've ever seen in my life when it comes to logic. His blog was so bad, I did a video on my channel. You can go check it out. Just find his name on my channel. But it was so bad that I actually sent it to a friend of mine who's a logic expert, right? Has a master's degree, not a PhD, but he has a master's degree in logic, who actually worked with Dr. Graham Priest, if you guys know who he is. And this guy was like, Steve, I'm never going to talk to you again. He's like, this was so bad. Why would you do this to me, to show me something so egregious? Because it's in jest, but it's like, this guy's the head of an organization for atheism. And he literally, I'm not even joking here, in one thread, he threw out 5 fallacies, dude. 5 fallacies. He got them all wrong. And I wasn't the only one noticing. It wasn't just me. The Intrigued Feline has them all copied down. She's like, even she was like,
wow, I'll throw something out there about Randolph, and
I know he's a friend. He used to be a friend of yours. I don't know if he still is, but I know you.
Oh, look, no, it's not really a friend. I spoke to him a couple of times, and he was giving some advice as far as setting up, an Australian organisation, and he did put the time out, so I'll give him that. The way though, I guess why I stopped really having anything to do was because then he jumped on the We Hate Steve crowd, and I think that crowd pulls people. I think that crowd pulls people in, and I mean, I know that crowd base well, and I'm happy I've got the receipts for this. They essentially offer to help promote you and put you in touch with the right kind of people if you turn against Steve.
Oh, they do. I know they do. I've seen messages from a dozen people. They all told me this. Yeah.
So I've got the receipts for that. Yeah. And I think that's what happened. It's the conversations I had with Randolph. It seems like a decent guy. I think he was wrong in what he said, and he's gone a little bit cancel culture-ish. But I don't know.
But see, that's because I called him out.
He helped me with some things, so I don't want to speak too well of him.
But that's fine, and you don't need to. But here's the thing: I actually showed why his webpage was bullshit. I mean, legit showed. Again, go watch the video on Randolph Richardson on my YouTube channel.
Oh yeah, and I remember when we were trying to organise the debate, and you said, "Hey, well, that's cool. Give me the academic sources, not just."
And how many did he provide?
And he refused to. And I remember because the debate was going to be on Nevermore Tavern with Jay.
Well, I have the most respect for it, right?
Jay getting frustrated, going,
right? Wasn't his fault.
Organise this thing, and it's just like, and I just went. I ended up saying,
it wasn't Jay's fault at all.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah, but here's the thing. It wasn't going to happen because he was so dishonest. I'm sorry. He is straight out dishonest, and he tried to character assassinate me rather than show that I was wrong by the logic that I showed that he was inept on. And that to me is the indicative of these people. If they can't show that my logic is wrong, my reasons are wrong, or my arguments are wrong, they have to try to character assassinate me. And he went down that path only because there was a bunch of people in his ear going, "Hey, we all shit on Steve. If you shit on Steve, we'll promote you more." That's exactly what they do. Exactly. And I know they do. You know they do. This is a fact.
Oh, hey, they offered it to me.
Yeah. You're not the only one.
It's like, give me a break.
NZ Pure for $2 says, in my humble opinion, a lot of U.S. atheists will still carry their old dogma. Oh, yes, they do. Yeah. Yes, they do.
Not only U.S. atheists, Australian atheists too. Let me tell you.
Yeah, it is the same. They want and we'll leave you guys with this. When you're a fundamentalist and you're an evangelical, when you transition to a position of no longer believing God exists, if you're a non-believer, you don't all of a sudden become a critical thinker. You don't all of a sudden have bad arguments. You still want people to tell you what to believe. You still want to say, well, I don't particularly have an argument here, but you know what? This person who's a leader in the community, this person is an atheist activist. They must know what they're talking about. I'm just going to parrot what they say, right?
But so they're not perfect.
Yeah, but,
and you're right. That's exactly what happens.
But you know what? We get the ones that try to change it.
It's learned behaviors and constantly. It's like muscle memory. It's just what people are used to.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's and once again, I think we need to be mindful. We don't want to smash those people too much because.
No, I don't want to smash. No, it's the opposite. I don't want to smash
people. People can't help it.
I want those people to listen to us and have conversations because we have changed the minds of many people. That's why I swear to you this again, Steve's a narcissist. No, bullshit. What it is, hey, look, I have some convincing arguments, and those that have listened to my arguments, and we have actual rational dialogue with the cooperative principle and the principle of rational discourse, been able to sway people to go, hey, you know what? Yeah, maybe Steve has a point here. And by the way, it's not just me. There's other people that argue just like I do for the same exact things that are well-educated people. Because yeah, sure, I have some of my own unique perspectives and my own unique arguments. They're derivative, not going to say they're not, but I think they're well formulated to enough where people go, well, okay, if you're gonna say that Steve's wrong on this, at least give him some argument, give him some reasons for it.
And look, even in academia, there's disagreements. Yes. And I was in an interesting conversation on in the comment section of the last Over and Under we did. And it was to do with, I guess, where people see political spectrums. And I've studied politics at a university level. And I can tell you, within academia, there's absolutely, it's contentious about who sits where, what's far, what's not far, what's extreme, different viewpoints. It's okay. It's absolutely people can disagree. Yeah. You can have a conversation with someone. Everyone puts forward a decent and reasonable argument. And walk away disagreeing.
So why do they try to cancel me?
Wrong with
why does the heavy hitters in the atheist community, many of them who I used to get along with, have excised me to the point of trying to smear me, trying to character assassinate me, merely because again they have not been able to show that my arguments have flaws in them. Like again, there might be flaws. Go for it. I'm serious. I have conversations all the time on my channel with people that are willing to have an honest dialogue. Some people I change their minds. Some people I don't. But we at least shake hands and go away friendly, right?
And the other thing is you don't have to like people to know that their arguments are right. Say if someone doesn't like you, Steve. That's fine. That's their absolute Zeus-given right to not like you. But that doesn't automatically invalidate your argument. No. Same with me. It's there's plenty of people who don't like me, and I'll make comments and I'll put forward arguments. Just because you don't like me doesn't.
But here's the difference: you don't have
right or wrong.
You don't have dozens of people going around to people that are my friends, DMing them going, hey, you need to avoid Steve. Steve's a horrible person. Let us tell you why. We're gonna shit all over Steve because this and this. And by the way, most people have.
Yeah, I do. I did. When you should have seen what happened when I.
Oh, I don't need to see it. I know. I'm telling you. I don't need to see your DMs. I have not seen your DMs, and I don't care to. But I have seen other people that have very similar things. It happens to a lot of people I know, and they're like, fuck these people. But that's their goal. Do you know how many people I've slid into their DMs and say, look. This atheist is shitty, and you shouldn't have a discourse with them. None. I don't care if you go talk to the shitty people. Knock yourself out. I don't give a damn. but for them to try to character assassinate me shows you what we're up against. This is the cancel culture
Look,
that we're up against. That's the religious mentality.
A concerted group of people who have got a hard on for you and they hate you, and it's you know, it's similar to the Trump thing, and I don't want to compare you to Trump here.
No, I
so
get I know what you're saying though. Yeah.
But they keep saying everything you do. If you sneeze, if you look sideways, it's this, it's that, it's it's harassment, it's this, you're that. So if you ever do something wrong, no one's gonna. Most people are gonna ignore it because it's just like, oh yeah, the crazies are coming on about Steve again.
Yeah.
Anyway,
all right, so let's wrap it up. Jamie says it is critical. What does he say? It is critical. Henry creeping into culture. I don't know what that means. Henry. But all right, but anyways, guys, thanks for watching this again. Thank you for being Patreons. Thank you for becoming members. Go check out Atheist Pastor's channel. It's in the video description. You know, he's got some great stuff. The only issue I have with this channel is he has some weird hours he does his stuff. I'm usually asleep. It's 4 o'clock in the morning for me most of the time. But,
you can always watch the replay.
Yeah, well, I do, but I watch some of your stuff, but I'm telling you right now, I watch it on like 1.5 speed. I can't watch shit in normal speed. It's just too... Everybody sounds like chipmunks.
Well, so that's an advantage. It's more efficient for you.
Yeah, so talk slowly, so when I play it, it sounds normal.
Intentionally, I'm going to say this is for Steve.
Yeah, so promote your stuff real quick, and then we'll wrap it up. What do you got for us?
Links down below. If doesn't cost you anything to hit the subscribe button. Would love to see you there. Friday Night Six Pack is the main thing we do on the channel, which is on tomorrow night, which is where 6 of us get together and solve all of the problems of the world while having a couple of drinks. So I say Friday night for me, Friday morning for those of you in the United States. Look, there's other stuff on my channel as well. Have a look. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Hit the subscribe button. Doesn't cost you anything to do that.
And we love promoting channels, so I know we got some new listeners out there. Let us know what you thought, because it's the first time.
Yeah.
I know some people were listening for the very first time. Leave comments in the video description if you got a subject you want to talk about. And by the way, no offense, Chris, but most of the comments we get on the over and under videos are like... They're like that much directed to you. I swear to God, it's ridiculous. But I love them.
But you know, I'm happy to have even in the comment section. I'm happy to have the conversations. I'm happy to explain my point of view. And if we disagree, like I had a fairly intense 20 reply conversation with someone. We disagreed at the end. You know, we disagreed. It was we both had studied at an academic level. Apparently, we both held different viewpoints, like a lot of academics do, and so be it. That's okay.
Yeah,
we had a good conversation. It was reasonably respectful. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm happy to have that where I've got time. I mean, I can't spend my entire life replying to comments, but if you want to ask me a question, ask away. If I see it, I'll reply to it, and I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone, or even send me a message on Twitter at @atheist_pastor.
Okay, there you go. He's asking for it. Bring it on, people. Good night.
Doesn't bother me.